Stories number 1. Aita for moving back home after my husband left me even though I'm pregnant. I've been getting cruel messages from my ex, his family and our friends for the past few days. My soon-to-be ex-husband Levi, 33M and I, 28F, have been together for a decade. Married for 5 years. I'm currently pregnant with our first baby and due next month. After I graduated, I moved back to his hometown, a major city on the West Coast with him. I'm from a bigger city in the Midwest, but loved living out there. I thought we were happy. We planned our baby and were so excited. But a few weeks ago he told me he was going to file for divorce. He said he didn't want to be tied down anymore, he was still young and needed to live his life, etc. He said there was nobody else, but I know since then he's been seeing someone. He wanted me to move out, but this is my house too. I put down the down payment even. So he's been staying with his friend Louis. I can't afford to live here on my own while maintaining my lifestyle. Sure, I could make it work, but it wouldn't be the kind of lifestyle I'd want to live, especially with a baby. I make really good money even, but it's so expensive. I have friends for sure, but not the support system he does. No family here. So I've decided to move back home, and luckily my company has a location in my hometown, so I was able to keep my job. My parents have been so supportive. They're divorced and hate one another but are now combined in their hatred of Levi, which is interesting to see. They've secured me a nice rental home in my city and refuse to let me pay them back, saying I need to save for buy my next house. They're paying for my divorce lawyer and my co-pays at my new doctor here. They're paying, said I'm doing the right thing for my baby and are happy to help. My mom is about to retire and even wants to watch my baby while I work after my maternity leave. So it's been an ideal situation for me. Levi is furious. He's claiming that I moved to get back at him, and am going to try to keep him out of our baby's life. I explained very clearly that I couldn't afford to be a single mom in San Diego, but he doesn't believe me. He's told everyone I moved back to get the upper hand on custody. That's not why I moved, but it's definitely a plus. His job doesn't have any locations here, and they won't keep him if he moves. He could get another job here, of course, but he says that's too much to ask of him. I told him I'd be going for child support once the baby is born, and he told me I needed to make up my mind. Could he be a dad or no? I told him he was going to be a dad regardless, and if he doesn't want to move here, then he would be a dad by paying child support. I don't think I'm the asshole, I think I'm doing what I have to do. But IDK, what I'm supposed to say to all these people texting and calling me and telling me I'm keeping Levi's baby from him. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. More than likely the ones bugging you don't know the truth of the situation. Reply. I mean, they know he is divorcing me, but they think I'm being petty and I should just scale back my lifestyle so I can afford to stay in California. Why should I scale back my hobbies, travel and savings just to convenience him? Commenter 2. First off, congratulations on your baby. Second, don't respond to those stupid texts. You can block those numbers. If he sends any hateful texts, especially now with the baby, you can save those and use it in court if he ever tries to go after you. Oh, what you need is a peaceful time before delivery and stress-free postpartum lifestyle. And go for child support. He's the one who wanted to leave for a free lifestyle. Now he's got it. Reply. Oh, I'm going for full child support, don't worry, lol. Hetty, it would be one thing if this was a one-night stand thing, but we planned our baby and he's not getting out of supporting it. Commenter 3. You screwed up his plans. He wanted to be with his girlfriend and have you nearby doing all the work raising the baby so he could visit only when he feels like it. You take care of you. His anger over not getting everything he wants after abandoning you is his problem to deal with. Don't respond to any of those calls or texts. Reply. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I just feel so lied to. Commenter 4. NTA, he created this situation, and now he can walk the path he's chosen. He put you in a situation where you would not have been able to make it, and now you have a support system. He can go kick rocks. How much of a father he is depends on him, and how often he will visit his child. But tell him you understand if he's young and needs to live his life. As for anyone sending you negative messages, just block them. It's that simple. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't have to discuss anything with them. Just block them and be done. Reply. I have blocked some of them, but it doesn't mean that I've forgotten what they said and was just wondering if they were right. Reply commenter 4. Well, rest assured. They are not right. They only know what he has told them. I wonder if they even know about his side piece. Do they know he left you for someone else during your pregnancy? If not, I might be tempted to unblock them long enough to inform them of that little tidbit, and then block them again. Reply. They know we planned on getting pregnant and it even took us a few months, and that he has a new girlfriend, so I guess they do. I guess they don't care. Reply commenter 4. Well then, that's your cue. You don't have to give a rat's ass about their opinions. Commenter 5. You moving somewhere because you need financial support isn't an Aita situation. But IDK what I'm supposed to say to all these people texting and calling me and telling me I'm keeping Levi's baby from him. You said, you have a divorce lawyer? Talk to them about whether you're doing anything illegal, divorce compromising when it comes to the child. Why? And stop responding to everyone calling, texting, until you get that answer. Reply. I'm not. He can't force me to stay anywhere, and I'm the pregnant one, so yeah, the baby goes where I go. It is what it is, and he can't stop me from leaving the state LOL. Commenter 6. NTA. He made the decision to divorce you, with no consideration of you or your child. You now have to make decisions in the best interest of you and your child. You have no obligation to consider his wants. Having a support system is huge when having a child, especially as a single mother. Stories number 2. AITJ for refusing to give up my inheritance to pay for my sister's wedding? My dad passed away last year after a long illness. It was devastating, but honestly, the last few years of his life were harder than the funeral itself. I-28F was the one who moved back home to take care of him. I handled doctor's appointments, late-night emergencies, bills, and basically ran the house when he couldn't anymore. It was exhausting, but I don't regret it. He and I got very close during that time. My sister 32F, on the other hand, lives out of state. She came back twice in the last year of his life. Once for Christmas, and once for his birthday. I don't think she's a bad person, but she definitely distanced herself from the responsibility. Her excuse was that she had her own life and couldn't just drop everything. I understood at the time, but it still hurt. When Dad passed, his will specifically left me a decent chunk of money. Not millions, but enough that I could pay off my student loans and actually start saving for a house. Shoei. It was clear in the will that this money was for me because of the sacrifices I made while caring for him. My sister received other things. He left her some jewelry and a classic car he had restored that she always loved, but the majority of liquid assets went to me. Fast forward to now. My sister got engaged in May. Her fiancé is nice enough, but they both have champagne tastes on a beer budget. The wedding they're planning is way out of their price range. Destination resort, designer dress, open bar, huge guest list. I assumed they were going into debt for it, which I thought was their choice. But then, about a month ago, my sister sat me down and said, I need your help. Dad would have wanted you to use some of that inheritance to make my wedding special. She wasn't asking for a small loan. She wanted me to hand over $30,000 to cover the venue and catering. I told her no. I said that Dad left me that money for a reason, and I'm using it to build stability in my life, not blow it on a party. She immediately got defensive and accused me of being selfish and choosing money over family. Now my mom has gotten involved. She says Dad would have wanted me to share and that family comes first. I told her, Dad literally wrote a will that reflected his wishes, and if he wanted to fund my sister's wedding, he would have set aside money for that. Mom keeps saying I'm tearing the family apart. My sister has been telling relatives that I'm punishing her for not being around when Dad was sick, which makes me feel sick to my stomach because it's kind of true. I am resentful. But it also feels unfair that the person who did all the work gets nothing, and the one who barely showed up gets rewarded. Some cousins are on her side and have texted me things like, "It's just money, you'll make more," and "Your dad would have wanted her to have her special day." Others thankfully have said it's insane she's even asking. Now my sister says she won't invite me to the wedding at all unless I do the right thing. My mom is begging me to reconsider for the sake of peace. But honestly, I can't see myself handing over 30K just so my sister can have a fancy Instagram wedding while I put my future on hold. Still, the guilt is eating at me. Am I really the jerk for refusing to share my inheritance with my sister to pay for her wedding? Comments. Commenter 1. Stand your ground and hold your boundaries. No one needs or is entitled to an extravagant wedding. They chose to plan outside of their budget. They can figure it out. Their request is selfish and rude. Commenter 2. Nah, don't hand the money to her. She's just trying to gaslight you into giving her money. She wasn't there for your dad, you were, and he left you that money for you, and she can't do anything about it. Commenter 3. It's obnoxious that the only options are pay 30K to her or you can kick rocks. She can downsize her extravagance and you can save your money. For your mom to take anyone's side screams volumes, it's disgusting that either of them would use your father's passing to their benefit, when neither were truly present to hear his thoughts and wishes. I wouldn't even bother debating this anymore if necessary. Tell them the money is already spent and invested. Case closed. Commenter 4. Tell her, you are right. Family comes first. Dad is family and respecting his wishes comes first. Don't tell me what Dad would have wanted, I know, because he literally wrote it down. Don't ask me to disrespect my dead father's final wishes. Update to refusing to give up my inheritance. I didn't expect to be writing again so soon. But the last couple of days have been a whirlwind. I've cried, I've screamed into pillows, and at one point I just sat in the dark staring at the ceiling wondering what the hell happened to my family. After my first post, things with my sister kept escalating. She kept sending me guilt-trippy texts, saying things like, "If you really loved me, you'd do this for me," and "You're choosing money over your only sister." I was holding strong, but it still hurt. Then, something came out that I wasn't prepared for. One of my cousins, who's been quietly on my side, told me my sister hasn't exactly been faithful to her fiancé. At first I didn't believe it. It sounded too wild, too cruel. But then they showed me messages. My sister has been seeing a man from her job for months. Married man. She apparently told my cousin she's not even sure she wants to marry her fiancé, but she's going through with the wedding anyway because everything's already in motion, and she deserves the spotlight after a hard year. I felt like I'd been punched, not because I care about her fiancé that much, we've never been close, but because it shattered the last bit of moral ground she had to stand on. She's been calling me selfish, manipulative, greedy, all while living a double life. Here's the part that broke me. My mom knows. She admitted it when I confronted her last night. She said she walked in on my sister late at night whispering on the phone, and when she pushed her, my sister confessed. Mom's exact words to me were, "She just needs to get it out of her system. Once she's married, she'll settle down. Don't ruin this for her. I don't even know who my mother is anymore." The woman who raised me to believe in honesty and integrity is now telling me to keep quiet, while my sister destroys her relationship and another family's marriage. All so we can have a happy event to cover the grief of losing Dad. And here's the kicker. My sister is still hammering me for the money, still saying Dad would want me to share, still threatening to cut me out of her life completely. She has no idea I know what she's doing. Part of me wants to out her. Tell her fiancé, tell the whole damn family, throw the truth like a grenade and walk away. Another part of me is exhausted. I already spent years holding my dad's hand in hospitals while everyone else lived their lives. Do I really want to take on this burden too? For now, I've decided to step back. I'm not going to her wedding. Invite or no invite, I won't be there. I took more of the inheritance and paid down my student loans today, and I cried when I saw my balance shrink. Not out of guilt this time, but relief. Because Dad left me that money so I could finally breathe. My sister might never forgive me. My mom might never understand me, and maybe I'll be painted as the villain for the rest of my life. But at least I know, deep down, I'm not the one lying to everyone. I just wish Dad was still here. He'd cut through all this noise in 5 seconds flat. Comments. Commenter 1. Good for you. You should never feel guilty upon for doing what you think or know is right. Commenter 2. She's toxic. Your mom is enabling her behavior. Don't get sucked in any farther to the drama they are creating. Distance yourself from these two and live a good life, and not a penny to your sister. Your dad did what he did for a reason. Commenter 3. You can put an end to all the guilt-trippy texts. Right now, one message to your sister. I'm going to honor Dad's wishes. I am absolutely sure he wouldn't want me to hand over what he left for me, for a wedding to celebrate a marriage that's already poisoned by infidelity, before it even started. Please don't make me take a public stand on why I will no contribute. I wish you a wonderful wedding and a happy marriage. Please get your ducks in a row so the marriage lasts longer than the wedding planning did. Lots of love, sister. Is it blackmail? Not really. You're not making her do anything she doesn't want to do. You're just pressuring her to stop doing what you do not want her to do. She doesn't have to go out of her way for you to not out her cheating. She quite little doesn't have to do anything. Just stop harassing you. Commenter 4. It seems to me that your sister and mother are complicit in ruining the lives of two men. Maybe the AP doesn't know she's getting married, and we're perfectly okay with your going into financial need to satisfy them. I'm just putting this out there. You owe them nothing. You have no responsibility for either of them. And if you really want to help someone whose life will be ruined, tell her fiancé. Stories number 3. ATA for letting my niece have fun when she lives with me because of the cruel stuff she wrote and said to her stepmother. In June of this year, my niece, Abby 15, came to live with me 28M, and I became her legal guardian alongside my partner. My brother is her father. Abby's mom died when she was 9, and my brother remarried when she was 11. Abby was never very happy about my brother's remarriage or my SIL. It was clear to everyone, and mostly she just ignored her stepmother, but there were outbursts here and there when her stepmother tried to parent her. Sal's birthday is in May, and my brother threw her a family party birthday dinner. Abby was asked to write her a card and give it to her with a gift my brother bought for SIL on Abby's behalf. I can't remember word for word what Abby wrote and said, but to summarize, she told Sil she hated her, that she never wanted her to marry her dad. She wasn't as good as her mom. She called Sil ugly, said her mom was prettier. She said her mom was a better cook than SIL, and brought up compliments her mom used to get on her cooking. She, a million Sils, would not be worth even half of her mom. She said she was glad SIL and my brother could not have kids, and she hoped every day that SIL would never get to stay pregnant. There were also insults about SIL's sense of style and how ugly stuff was that she brought into the house. She called Sil an outsider, brought up her mom being the love of my brother's life, and not Sil. And she mentioned several times that she would never love her or accept her or want her around, and how happy she'd be if they divorce. There were attempts made to stop Abby, but she told her dad she'd finish since she was forced to give Sil anything at all. Then my brother tried making her apologize. He put her on a waiting list for therapy and punished her, tried talking to her, tried using therapy books to get an apology or regret out of her, but when nothing came in the first month, he said someone else needed to take her in, because SIL being around Abby was not good after all the stuff she said. My partner and I offered as long as guardianship was given to us if this was more than a week or two deal, which it was always planned to be. Since moving in with us, Abby has started therapy. She hasn't apologized or expressed regret. She has not wanted to see SIL, has actually said she's happy to no longer live with her. She has seen my brother 1 to 2 times most weeks. Now he's grumbling that Abby isn't restricted from having fun and living her life, that we let her spend time with friends, go to the movies and other things teens want to do. He told me she should be on full grounding until she apologizes, and especially now that she got her way and isn't around SIL anymore. He said he felt it was a given, and I told him he said nothing about that. Only that she needed to be in therapy, and she is, and I told him the therapist said she could be grounded for 20 years, if that were even possible to get what he wants. He said she doesn't deserve to have a fun life, and I should agree with that. Comments? Commenter 1. He said she doesn't deserve to have a fun life, and I should agree with that. JFC, that is his daughter he's talking about. His daughter. The fact that he steamrolled his new wife into the family and tried to make a new instant family is ridiculous. He deserves everything that happens in his miserable life. His daughter, on the other hand, is receiving appropriate support to help her deal with her mother's passing and the complex emotions she is experiencing. You and your wife at NTA. In fact, you are as NTA as it's possible to be. Bro can kick rocks, pound sand, or whatever other phrase you want to use to tell him to F off. Commenter 2, NTA. He should have started the therapy 4 years ago, but he chose to ignore his daughter's obvious difficulties with not only the death of her mother at such a young age, but with his remarriage. There were so many warning signs in this story, and him continuing to try and force a relationship is never going to work. She's probably never going to be genuinely remorseful because, like it or not, that was her truth. And he has only himself to blame for forcing her to write the card just the way he's tried to force her to accept SAL, not just as his wife, but as a mother figure in a young, Traumatized girl who clearly hasn't been appropriately supported through the death of her actual mother. He needs to accept that he is the one who failed his daughter so badly and get the fuck over the apology. He should be apologizing to her, and you should definitely let him read the comments. Commenter 3 NTA. You are NTA. While what Abby did was incredibly cruel, she is clearly dealing with intense unprocessed grief and anger. Your brother's focus on forcing an apology through indefinite punishment grounding is ineffective. As proven by his own failed attempts, you are doing the right thing by creating a stable, supportive home and following the therapist's advice. Therapy is the consequence, not a prison sentence. Letting her have a normal life while doing the hard emotional work in therapy is the most constructive path forward. Her healing and finding a stable emotional ground is the priority, not your brother's demand for a forced apology. Commenter 4. He sounds like my brother, his first child. My niece was pretty much disowned and thrown away after my brother got married. She then had 2 kids, and her children are angels and don't deserve to be around negativity or some bullshit like that because of how they behave. My sisters and I don't have anything to do with my nephews or my brother. When we tried prior, we were also met with judgment and asshole behavior. So I said, hey, I don't have to fucking listen to any of you, and moved on with my life. My sisters and I have stepped out, and recently at my aunt's funeral, my 26-year-old niece and I made fun of her dad, and we told her you're doing great without him. You never needed him. Sadly, your relationship with your brother may not ever be the same again, but that's okay because your niece is happy. Stories number 4. My sister wanted to use my house as a free venue for her baby shower, and now she won't talk to me. I need some perspective because this whole thing has turned into way more drama than I expected, and honestly, I feel like I'm living in one of those family sitcoms where the main character is accused of being the difficult one when they're just setting a normal boundary. I'm 35, married to my husband Daniel, and we live in a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs of Ohio. It's not some giant mansion, but we've put a lot of work into it over the years. Painting, landscaping, renovating the kitchen. It's a cozy, well-kept space, and we like it that way. It's our sanctuary. We're both introverted, and home is our place to recharge. We don't host often, and when we do, it's usually just small dinners with close friends, not big family gatherings. My younger sister Jessica is 32 and just announced that she's pregnant with her first child. Everyone's excited. Our parents, her boyfriend Ryan, the extended family. When she first shared the news, she was glowing, and I was genuinely happy for her. I've always pictured her as the mom of our family because she's nurturing, bubbly, and loves being the center of attention. But here's the issue. Jessica has decided she wants a big baby shower. Not just a small gathering, but a full-blown 40-50 person event with decorations, food, games, the works. That's fine. I support celebrating her. But from the moment she started planning, she's been dropping not-so-subtle hints about my house. At first it was little things like, your backyard would be perfect for a shower in the spring, or that open layout in your living room is so much nicer than any banquet hall. I dodged those comments at first, but then she flat out said, so we'll just do the shower at your house. It'll save so much money. I was caught off guard because she said it like it was already decided. I told her immediately that I wasn't comfortable hosting something that large at my house. It's not that I don't want to celebrate her. It's just that hosting stresses me out to no end. I know what happens when my family comes over. People stay too long, spill things, kids run wild, the place gets trashed, and I'm left cleaning for hours afterward. I reminded her of Thanksgiving 2 years ago, when I agreed to host for the first time. By the end of the night, my dining room chairs were stained. The bathroom sink was clogged with paper towels. Someone flushed, and I was up past midnight cleaning dishes while everyone else went home. Jessica was one of the last people to leave, and she didn't lift a finger to help. That was the moment I promised myself I wouldn't host big family events again. So this time, I told her firmly, I'm sorry, Jess, but I can't host the shower. If you want, I'll help you look at venues. And Daniel and I are willing to chip in toward the cost. I thought that was a fair compromise. She did not take it well. She immediately said I was being selfish and unsupportive, that as her sister, I should want to do this for her. She said it's just one day, and that she shouldn't have to spend money on a venue when my house is sitting right there, perfectly good and free. I tried to explain again that it's not about the money. It's about my comfort and boundaries. But she wasn't hearing it. Now she's giving me the silent treatment. She's told my mom that I'm refusing to celebrate her baby, which isn't true at all. Mom called me the other night and tried to guilt-trip me, saying, "You know it would mean so much to your sister if you just let her have the shower there." I told her no again, and reminded her that Daniel and I offered to help pay for a rental hall or restaurant space. My mom sighed and said, "It's just not the same." Meanwhile, Daniel is 100% on my side. He reminded me that it's our house, our rules, and that if I cave this time, Jessica will expect us to host every milestone event moving forward. Gender reveals, birthday parties, who knows what else? He's right. Jessica has a history of pushing boundaries and assuming other people will just go along with her plans. The part that's making me second-guess myself is how intense the backlash has been. My aunt called me yesterday and said she doesn't see the big deal about letting Jessica use my place. My cousin texted me to say I'm being overly dramatic. Even my dad, who usually stays out of this kind of drama, made a comment about how I should let it slide just this once. But I keep going back to that Thanksgiving, and the sinking feeling I had standing in my kitchen at 1 a.m., scrubbing dishes while my family was home in bed. I don't want to put myself in that position again. No matter how special the occasion is, and for what it's worth, I'm not refusing to celebrate her baby. I've already offered to help plan, to pay for catering, to organize decorations. I just don't want it at my house. Jessica refuses to budge. Though, to her, if it's not at my house, it's not good enough. Now she's not speaking to me at all, except for one text that said, "Don't bother coming to the shower if you won't even let me use your house." That one stung. It feels like she's equating my love for her with whether or not I sacrifice my boundaries. So here I am, stuck. I feel like I've been reasonable. I set a boundary, offered alternatives, and stood my ground. But my entire family seems to think I'm being cold and stubborn. Maybe I am. Or maybe they're just so used to Jessica getting her way that me saying no feels like a personal attack. I don't know. Maybe I'll never convince them, but right now, I'm choosing to protect my peace. Stories number 5. I copied the email style of my male coworkers. And suddenly I'm rude. Why does professionalism look different for women? I'm in my mid-20s, working at a fairly standard corporate job in marketing at a mid-sized firm in Chicago. It's not glamorous, but it pays decently, has benefits, and in theory, it's the kind of job where you can climb the ladder if you keep your head down and do good work. I've been with the company for almost 3 years, and while I like a lot of the people on my team, I've started to notice patterns that are, well, let's just say they've been eating at me more lately. One of those patterns has to do with communication. Specifically, email. For a long time, my emails were what I thought of as normal, polite, friendly, maybe even a little too friendly. I'd write things like, "Hi Alex, hope you're doing well. I was just wondering if you've had the chance to review the slides for tomorrow's meeting. Totally fine if not, just wanted to check in, thanks so much." That's honestly how I wrote, word for word, lots of exclamation points, just sprinkled in like seasoning, softening everything so it didn't sound too harsh. It wasn't calculated. I wasn't trying to seem cute or girly. It's just how I learned to communicate. You don't want to sound demanding, right? And if you're emailing someone higher up, you definitely don't want to risk coming off like you're ordering them around. But then I started comparing my emails to the guys on my team, specifically guys like Tyler and Matt, both in their early 30s, both considered rising stars by management. Their emails? Completely different tone. Tyler would write something like, "Need the updated slides by EOD. Send when ready." That's it. No greeting, no thank you, no emoji. Not even a please. And you know what? People listened to him. Nobody accused him of being bossy or rude. It was seen as professional, efficient, straight to the point. Meanwhile, I'd send emails twice as long, full of "hope you're well" and "no rush" disclaimers. And sometimes I wouldn't even get a response. Or I'd get brushed off like I wasn't being taken seriously, so I decided to run a little experiment. For 1 week, I consciously copied their style. Short, direct, to the point. No fluff, no emojis, no softening language. If Tyler could write, "Send the data set by noon," I'd write, "Send the draft by noon." And almost immediately, I noticed something. People actually responded faster. There was no confusion. My requests got done. It was efficient. But then, of course, came the backlash. 3 days into my experiment, I get called into my manager's office. My manager, Eric, is in his 40s, one of those guys who tries to be approachable but is very much a corporate lifer. He closed the door and said, "Hey, I just wanted to flag something. A couple people mentioned that your emails lately are coming across a little curt, maybe even rude. I was floored. I asked him what he meant, and he gave me an example. I'd emailed someone in finance asking for updated numbers, and I wrote, "Need updated Q3 figures by tomorrow. Thanks." According to Eric, that landed wrong. I pulled up one of Tyler's emails from the same week. It was nearly identical. "Need numbers by EOD. Thanks." He'd sent it to the same finance team. No one said a word about his tone. I pointed that out to Eric. I literally put my laptop in front of him and said, "How is his email efficient and mine rude when they're the same format?" "And do you know what he did?" He shrugged. He actually said, "Yeah, I get your point. There is kind of a double standard sometimes, but, perception matters. Maybe just soften things a bit so people don't misinterpret your tone." That was it. That was the grand solution. So let me get this straight. When Tyler does it, it's professional. When I do it, it's rude. And instead of fixing the perception problem, I'm supposed to change my style to accommodate it? It's not like I was writing in all caps or barking orders. I was mirroring exactly what my male coworkers were doing. And somehow, it was only a problem when it came from me. I vented about it later to one of my work friends, Sarah, who's also in her mid-20s and has been noticing the same thing. She told me she once got feedback in her performance review that her communication style could come across as overly apologetic. So basically, when she softened too much, she wasn't assertive enough. When she tried being more direct, she risked being called cold or rude. It's a lose-lose, and that's exactly how I feel now. If I keep my emails friendly and warm, I run the risk of not being taken seriously. If I cut the fluff and get straight to business, I run the risk of being labeled difficult or unprofessional. Meanwhile, the guys get to be seen as strong leaders no matter what. It's not just email either. I've noticed it in meetings. Too, if I pitch an idea directly, people sometimes say, "Oh wow, you're being pretty blunt today," with a little laugh. If Tyler pitches the same idea with the same tone, it's great initiative. The irony is that our company loves to brag about diversity and inclusion on LinkedIn posts. But when it comes down to how women are actually treated day to day, nothing changes. So now I'm stuck. Do I keep mirroring the men and risk more side comments about my tone? Or do I go back to being overly nice and risk fading into the background? Neither feels good. I'm not trying to stir up drama, but I can't unsee it anymore. And once you start noticing these double standards, you see them everywhere. Update, wow. I didn't expect so many people to relate to this, or even care about my little email experiment. I read through the comments took me hours, and I realized that a lot of us, especially women, are stuck in this weird double bind where you're damned if you're too nice, and damned if you're too direct. I wanted to come back with what's happened since because things definitely escalated. After I made the original post, I decided I wasn't going to just let it go. I didn't want to keep being frustrated in silence, and honestly, a lot of your comments gave me courage to do something instead of just shrugging like my manager did. So the first thing I did was start keeping receipts. Every time I sent an email, I screenshotted or saved it. Every time one of the guys sent something in the same style, I did the same. I made a little compare and contrast folder. For example, I asked the finance team for Q3 numbers with, "Need updated Q3 figures by tomorrow, thanks." That was flagged as rude. 2 days later, Matt asked the same team, "Send me your numbers by 4. No please, no thank you, no greeting. No one batted an eye. There were like 10 examples in just a week and a half. It was wild how obvious it was once I started tracking it. The second thing I did was talk to Sarah, the coworker I mentioned before. She was all in. She said she's been told she sounds emotional when she adds too many pleasantries, but also too cold if she tries to keep it direct. We decided to make this a joint thing instead of me feeling like I was going crazy alone. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Last week we had an all-hands meeting where they opened the floor for questions or feedback. Usually these are boring because no one wants to rock the boat. But Sarah gave me a look and then raised her hand. She asked a very calm, very neutral question about whether the company had ever done any training on communication bias. Eric, our manager, looked a little deer in the headlights, but said something about, "We strive to make sure everyone feels heard." After the meeting, he pulled both of us aside separately. With me, he tried to downplay again, saying, "Look, I didn't mean to make you feel singled out. But people do notice tone." I pushed back this time. I said, "I've been documenting examples of my emails versus my coworkers, and the standard isn't being applied equally." His face when I said documenting was priceless. Like I'd just told him I had dirt on him. He asked to see the examples, so I sent him a few. He didn't have much to say except, "I see what you mean," which is corporate speak for, "I can't deny it, but I don't want to admit fault either." Here's the part I wasn't expecting. 2 days later, I get an invite from HR. Apparently Eric had escalated it, probably to cover his own butt, and HR wanted to touch base. I was nervous, but it went better than I thought. The HR rep, a woman named Dana, late 30s, actually listened. I showed her the side-by-sides, and she nodded a lot. She said, "This is something we've heard before, though not usually in such concrete terms. I really appreciate you bringing this up with examples." Sarah ended up going to HR too and backed me up. We weren't trying to make it a huge gender war, but we made it clear that the perception issue isn't in our heads. It's real now. The fallout. They're rolling out a communication in the workplace training. Supposedly it'll address bias in how tone is perceived depending on who's speaking. I don't know how effective it'll be, but it's something. The guys on my team caught wind. Tyler made a joke like, "Guess I better start putting smiley faces in my emails so I don't get HR called on me." I laughed it off in the moment, but it did sting because it made me feel like he thinks we're overreacting. But at the same time, he's never had to think twice about whether he'll be labeled bitchy for saying the exact same thing. Eric has been weirdly careful with me now. He keeps asking if I feel comfortable with my workload, or if I need him to clarify tone before sending things. It's like he's walking on eggshells. Part of me feels guilty for stirring the pot, but another part of me thinks, good, maybe now you'll notice the imbalance. As for me, I've decided I'm not going back to writing cutesy, over-softened emails. I'm going to keep mine direct, professional, and polite, but not apologetic. If someone has an issue with it, that's on them. The bigger thing I've realized is that this isn't just about emails. It's about how women in corporate environments are constantly expected to balance on this impossible tightrope. Assertive, but not too assertive. Friendly, but not too friendly. Professional, but not cold. I don't see the men agonizing over how many exclamation points to put in a sentence. So yeah, that's where things stand now. I wouldn't say the battle is won, but at least it's on people's radar. And I'm glad I didn't just swallow it, because I think that's what a lot of us are conditioned to do. Final update. So first, the big picture. I stayed the course. I kept my emails direct, professional, and without the fluff unless I chose to add it. Not once because I felt I had to, but when it actually fit the situation. And you know what? People adjusted. At first, I'd still get the occasional raised eyebrow or, "Wow, short and to the point today." But over time, everyone just got used to it. It made me realize how much of the tone policing was less about me and more about breaking a norm they were used to from women. Once I stopped bending over backwards, it stopped being remarkable. The HR communication in the workplace training did happen. It was mandatory. A 1-hour Zoom session with an outside facilitator. I went in cynical, expecting some generic use positive language spiel, but it actually surprised me. The facilitator straight up said research shows that men's and women's communication is judged differently in the workplace, and they gave real examples, not just gendered either, race, age, and even accents. I saw a few of my male coworkers look uncomfortable during that part, and honestly, good, they needed to hear it. Did it magically fix everything? No, but the training gave me and Sarah language to point to. Now if someone says we sound rude, we can reply, "Are you saying that because of tone, or because of bias in tone perception?" That usually makes people pause. It shifts the burden back. As for Eric, our manager, he's still Eric. He hasn't turned into a feminist hero overnight, but I'll give him credit. He's more careful about feedback. He doesn't nitpick my tone anymore, and if he has an issue, he frames it in terms of clarity, not politeness. I can live with that. One of the most unexpected things came from Matt, the same coworker whose email style I mirrored in the beginning. He pulled me aside a couple months ago and said, "Hey, I didn't realize how different the expectations were for you." I looked back at some of my old emails, and yeah, I can see how I'd never get called out for them. It wasn't an apology exactly, but it felt like acknowledgement, which honestly meant more to me than I thought it would. The only real friction came from Tyler, the one who made the "guess I better use smiley faces" joke. He hasn't let it go completely. A few weeks ago, he actually snarked, "Careful, don't want HR to flag you for tone again." After I sent a straightforward reminder about deadlines, I told him calmly, "If you have a problem with my communication, take it up with Eric or HR because I'm not discussing it with you." He didn't expect me to shut it down like that, and he hasn't brought it up since. Here's the personal part I didn't expect. This whole situation changed how I see myself outside of work. 2. I realized how often I was softening my words in texts, in group chats, even when ordering at a restaurant, always cushioning myself so I wouldn't come off as too blunt, too bossy, too much. Since making the change at work, I've started carrying it into other parts of my life. And you know what? People still like me. People still respect me. Nothing catastrophic happened when I stopped constantly apologizing for existing. I also realized that by standing my ground, I gave space for Sarah to do the same. She told me last week she feels less anxious about hitting send now. That alone makes the whole ordeal worth it. Do I think the culture at my company has changed dramatically? Not yet, but seeds were planted. HR is paying attention. My team is more aware. And I've stopped contorting myself just to meet an invisible standard that was never fair to begin with. So, to answer the question I didn't know I was asking when I first posted, why does professionalism look different for women? Because people have been trained to see it that way. And the only way it changes is if we stop playing along with a rigged set of rules. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not promising I'll stay at this company forever. But I do know I'm leaving a mark, even if it's just in the form of a slightly less biased inbox, thanks to everyone who commented, shared stories, and gave me the push to actually do something about it. I'm not exaggerating when I say your words changed the trajectory of my career and probably my confidence as a whole. Stories number 6. Nanny informed us that our daughter disclosed some unwanted kissing at school. Wife and I are in disagreement on next steps. Our daughter is 8 years old and very close to the nanny, a woman in her mid-20s. Yesterday after her shift, our nanny informed us that our daughter opened up to her at bedtime about another girl at school, who's 7 and whose parents we know, who has been making our daughter kiss her for quite some time at school against her will. The nanny is excellent at safeguarding and followed all the appropriate steps, and has given her professional advice on how to move forward. Wife and I spoke to daughter this morning about this, and her account to us lines up with what nanny told us she'd said. Problem is, wife and I are at total loggerheads and opposite opinions on how to move forward. Wife is a psychologist and wants to resolve this with the parents of the other child only. She believes it's a normal part of the experimental ages they're in. I am fuming. My thoughts are to go to the school, child safeguarding services for the other child involved, who knows what's going on in her home, and go the official route. This was the nanny's advice also. My wife and I had an agreement on the kids, that we'd never act unless we were both in agreement. We're in limbo at the moment, and I am sick that I feel she is not taking this as seriously. Am I overreacting? Is this normal for 7 and 8-year-olds? Our daughter told us and nanny that she has asked the other girl stop and no on many occasions. I have been seething for the past 24 hours and don't know what to do. I'm thinking I just go to the school on my own at this point, but that'll bring consequences for my wife and I's relationship, as we have always managed to come to agreements in the past. Comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, I think that the school should be involved as a mediator between you two and the girl's parents. They are also the responsible ones on the clock when this is happening, and they can't stop what they don't know. Imagine if you two approach the parents on your own, and they get offended and try to turn this back around on your daughter or something stupid. Best to have a third, neutral party. Commenter 2, happened at school. They must be involved, as you said. Her home life may be troublesome. Schools are mandated reporters and will take the appropriate legal steps to stop this predatory behavior. Commenter 3, I do not have kids, so I may not be the best person to give advice. First, I want to say I'm so proud of your daughter for finding an adult to tell about this situation. Second, I don't think you are overreacting, but I understand where your wife is coming from. However, I do believe this is an incident the school should be made aware of. In case this child does not receive proper redirection, she may just switch victims. I think a meeting is to be had with the principal, teacher, and other parents to discuss what has been going and what measures will further be taken at school to prevent it, and asking the parents what they will do to make sure their child knows what happened is wrong and what they will do to redirect discipline. Commenter 4. I'd go to the school. They aren't keeping your child safe at school, and that needs to be rectified. Your job is not to excuse the behavior because it may be in the realm of developmentally appropriate behavior for the other child, although ignoring no and stop is not appropriate at that age. Your job is to safeguard your child, and to show her that when she discloses to her trusted adults that she needs help, She actually gets the help and the behavior stops. Stories number 7. My in-laws expect us to leave our own apartment so they can avoid our kitten. So my husband and I live in a small but cozy apartment. It's around 540 square feet, so not exactly spacious. But it's ours and we've made it comfortable. We've been married for a year, and just a couple months ago, we adopted a little kitten. Her name is Daisy, and she's 3 months old. She's tiny, playful, and basically my emotional support right now because work has been stressful. I love her to pieces. Here's where things get messy. My in-laws announced they want to come visit for a whole week. On the surface, fine. Family visits are part of marriage. But my in-laws aren't exactly easygoing. My father-in-law, Mark, is picky about food. My mother-in-law, Linda, doesn't like animals, especially cats, and my husband, Aaron, is what I'd call a people-pleaser when it comes to them. The problem: our apartment doesn't really have room for overnight guests. We've got our bedroom and a couch in the living room. The couch isn't terrible, but it's definitely not the kind of thing you'd want to sleep on for 7 nights. I immediately thought, okay, solution time. I suggested that we book them an Airbnb close by. That way, they'd have their own comfortable space to sleep. They could spend the days with us, and we could still cook meals together. Aaron has been very insistent that we cook because, in his words, Mom will lose her mind if we take them out every night. Fine, homemade meals at our place. Then they get to retreat to their own quiet Airbnb. Perfect compromise, right? Well, apparently not. When I floated the Airbnb idea, Aaron looked at me like I had 2 heads. He said it would be rude to make his parents stay somewhere else, that family should stay under one roof, and that the only proper solution is for us to pack up our lives, take Daisy with us, and stay in an Airbnb ourselves, while his parents take over our apartment. Yes, you read that right. We'd leave our own home, haul our 3-month-old kitten to some rental place, wake up early, come back every morning to cook, clean, host, and entertain, while his parents get the run of our apartment like it's theirs. I actually thought he was joking at first. I laughed and said, "You want us to be exiled from our own home for a week, with a baby cat in tow, and then spend all day playing housekeeper for your parents?" He wasn't joking. He got furious, said I was being selfish and disrespectful to his parents. I told him flat out that I didn't see how it was disrespectful to suggest a comfortable Airbnb for them, especially since it would give them more privacy too. I even said we'd pay for it, which is no small expense for us right now, but Aaron dug in, saying that his parents would see it as us pushing them away, that they'd be insulted. So then I said, okay, but how do you think it looks if I have to carry my kitten into some random Airbnb just because your parents hate cats? Daisy has never even been outside besides vet trips. She gets nervous in carriers. She's tiny and vulnerable. The idea of shoving her into a new place where she doesn't know the smells or layout, just to appease his parents, feels ridiculous. Aaron shot back with, "Well, it's only a week. She'll be fine." And that's when I kind of snapped. I told him if his parents are that uncomfortable with our living situation, maybe the visit isn't a good idea right now. Cue a massive blow-up. He accused me of not caring about family, not being accommodating, and trying to sabotage the relationship with his parents. To be clear, I don't hate my in-laws. They're not evil people. They're just particular, and I don't see why that should mean we have to bend over backwards to extremes, like they've stayed in Airbnbs before. It's not some outlandish idea, and our apartment isn't some mansion. It's 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a small living area, and a kitten who lives here. The other part that bothers me, when I host people, I want them to feel comfortable. Having them crammed into our tiny space, sleeping on a couch, awkwardly avoiding my kitten, is not comfortable. Them having their own little Airbnb a couple blocks away, with their own bathroom and bed, way better. But Aaron just cannot get past this image in his head, that family stays with family. What makes it even more frustrating is that he doesn't seem to realize how much work he's volunteering me for. He expects me to be up early making breakfast, doing groceries, cooking, cleaning, hosting dinners, and managing everything while his parents sit in the apartment they didn't pay for, while I juggle work, chores, and keeping Daisy from getting stressed. Meanwhile, he'll help, but I know how this goes. He's great in theory, less great in execution. I actually sat down and mapped out what that week would look like if we did it his way. Day 1. We pack up Daisy, drag her across town to an Airbnb she's never been in, set her up, try to get her to stop crying, barely sleep because she's confused. Day 2. Wake up, haul back to our own apartment, cook breakfast for his parents, clean, spend all day hosting, Cook dinner, stay late, go back to the Airbnb, repeat. Multiply that by 7 by the end of it. I'd be an exhausted mess. Daisy would probably be traumatized, and his parents would go home thinking we bent over backwards for them. And I'd resent everyone involved. On the flip side, if they stay in an Airbnb nearby, they wake up in a comfy bed, stroll over, enjoy meals with us, we hang out, and then they get to retreat to their own space at night. Everyone's comfortable, everyone's sane, but Aaron insists that suggestion would insult them. I honestly don't get it. My parents would never expect us to vacate our home for them. They'd laugh if I even offered. They'd probably be the ones to say, let's get a place nearby so we're not in your hair. But somehow with his parents, it's this sacred duty. And here's the kicker. Linda has openly said she doesn't like cats. She hasn't even met Daisy yet, but she already made a comment like, well, I hope that thing won't be shedding all over when we're there. I bit my tongue, but inside I was thinking, this is Daisy's home, you're the guest here. I've reached the point where I don't know how to make Aaron see how absurd this is. I told him, I will not uproot myself and Daisy for a week. That's not negotiable. He got quiet and said, fine, I'll figure it out, which usually means he's going to pout until I cave. But this time, I don't think I can. I'm willing to compromise, but not at the expense of my sanity and my kitten's well-being. So here I am, wondering if I'm being unreasonable. Am I crazy for thinking this sounds like a nightmare? Because to me, it feels like the most basic boundary in the world. Guests don't get to displace the people who live in the home. Guests get accommodated, sure, but not at the cost of the hosts being exiled. I love my husband, but on this one, I genuinely don't know how he thinks this is fair. Stories number 8. Aita for calling my wife selfish for even considering taking a job across the country and trying to uproot our family. So my wife was recently offered a job across the country, which requires relocation, but also will have frequent travel obligations. My wife feels this would be a huge plus to her career, but issue is we have 2 children, and my practice is here. What she will earn is not even half of what I currently make. She is currently not working, so I told her if she wants to take the job she would have to help with child care expenses, which would likely include a nanny cause I sometimes work nutty hours depending if I have a mandated hospital shift. She feels this is unfair because she would have to cover her own living expenses, and paying for childcare on top of that would leave her with very little. This job is not even providing a relocation bonus. She suggested we move, but everything we know is here. Our children have their friends here, and transferring my medical license is not all that simple. Her final suggestion is she takes the kids. I stay here and cover the cost of childcare and expenses cause she claims childcare. And KOL editor's note. Cost of living is cheaper, just not cheap enough for her potential salary to sustain me being a SAHP. I want to support her, but her suggestions seem half-baked to me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. I would understand if you were a stay-at-home dad. That would be reasonable. I didn't really get. Are you completely against of her going to work? Or this one specifically? If this one, then you are completely justified, especially considering that there are kids involved. Ripping them away from their friends is rude and unnecessary. Reply. I am not against her working at all, just not in favor of moving to a different state. What are the long-term prospects staying locally for OOP's wife? Reply. In what she wants to do, not great. She can leverage her engineering degree to work at a civil engineering firm doing consulting, but she did that prior and she hated it. Her current offer actually would have her working on infrastructure and work on something with meaning. She is a female engineer and sick of working in consulting. She wants to do something that matters, but it is a big boys club here, which is a factor as to why she became a SAHM. Commenter 2. NTA. This seems like a really strange situation for a married couple with children to be in. On the face of it, your wife thinking her taking this job is a viable option is crazy. It clearly doesn't make sense in all of the ways that matter logistically, financially, emotionally. The fact she suggested she take the kids and you stay is very, very strange. So it makes me wonder what else is going on. Are you happily married? Has she been a SAHM for a while? Maybe she's worried about not being able to get back into the workforce and thinks she has to take any opportunity she gets? Have you sat down as a couple to discuss her getting a job and what that will look like for your family, what's important, etc.? Are you willing for your career to take the back seat for a while so she can re-establish herself in her career, etc., etc.? Lack of communication seems to be the issue here, but also maybe deeper-rooted problems in your marriage? Downvoted commenter. As medical doctor he could get a new job easily. He doesn't say this. There is more than one side here, reply. It actually is not that simple to just go practice in a completely different state. Where we would move to is not part of IMLC editor's note. Interstate Medical Licensure Compact. Also, I cannot just up and leave my patients like that also. Commenter 3. What is it about this specific job that has her willing to leave you on the other side of the country while she and the kids start a new life? Does she know somebody at this job? Or have connections in the area that you know of? Seems fishy to me, reply. From what she has told me, she was tapped for this position by her old professor and mentor from college. OP on if he has his own practice or works for someone else, reply. I have my own practice and also work and teach at our state learning hospital. Director, Multiple Sclerosis Center. And Director, Neurology Residency Program. I specialize in MS. I am sure many would understand, but many of them would be disappointed. And it would take time for me to find someone that is willing to do this, especially at the rates I take. Not many here take Medicaid. How old are OP's children? Reply, 5 and 8, update. Aita, for calling my wife selfish, for even considering taking a job across the country and trying to uproot our family. Brief update since I got some requests. Not much has changed. I spoke with our kids and of course they like it. Where we are, they are kids. The reason my wife wants to take this job is because she feels due to nature of how she got the offer, her old professor mentor, and that she is also a female engineer. She understands her position. My wife is free to do what she pleases. She does not need my permission, but by no means can she expect us to uproot everything on the drop of a dime. I would never ask that for you. I did suggest she tries and create her own firm here, and find like-minded individuals who share a similar experience and create the work environment she wants. She is concerned she won't be able to break through that barrier of entry. I told we could find a means to fund said venture, but logistics of moving does not make sense at this. I would need at minimum a year to get my affairs in order, working on research, working on opening an infusion center near the hospital that would take every insurance. This is a big one for me since many of the infusion centers near us do not take certain insurances since they pay so little. Looking to possibly expand my MS clinic with more providers who are willing to do this labor of love for our community. I cannot just drop all of that. I did tell my wife I have no intention of stopping her, and if she wishes to go, that is fine. But I would not be sustaining 2 households. She moves, she would be responsible for all costs associated with the move. I will cover our shared expenses and primary residence, and that is all. I will cover everything here, and she would be responsible for her own expenses. I told her I would probably also lower or get of the credit cards also, since I know her she would live off credit if she had to. I threw out the option if she can request she works from home 3 out of the 4 weeks she is not traveling, and we can take it slow. See what the housing market is like. See what schools look like. Normal stuff you do before moving. She was not in favor of waiting since allegedly they need her answer by October. I have no desire to divorce, but I am a child of divorce and was raised by my dad. Overall, his outlook on divorce has always been no point fighting if the person has already checked out. If my wife wants out, I will respect that. My wife has only been a SAHP for around 5 years. She worked when we had our firstborn and well into the pregnancy of our second. She took maternity leave. When that was done, went back to work. Few months after her return, she was passed for a project contract. She did the legwork to secure, which lead her to quit and stay home with the kids. Our kids have been in daycare, under grandparents' care. My mom took 2 years to help with our firstborn. Her parents took off time for our second. Our second has been in academic daycare, as she puts, since they were 3. So it is not like she does not get breaks or is always with the children alone. My hours can be chaotic. But I made her well aware of this when we started to date and progress. When we started to date, I was already vested in our community. My gut tells me she is going to take the job. And yes, it possibly will lead to divorce. And if that is the case, given how much traveling she will be doing, I suspect I would be granted primary custody. I would not take CS from her, have no desire or need for it. Sorry for the stream of consequences. It is slightly disjointed cause this is a frustrating position to be in. I have no desire to be in this position, but I have other responsibilities. I cannot just drop without proper notice. If it comes to divorce, that is the way it played out and you just roll with it. As my parents told me, I will tell my kids. Just because they were no longer together does not mean either of them loved me any less. Granted, it was not a cross-country thing in our case. My parents lived blocks away from one another. Was a pretty easy transition on my part. I hope we can do the same for our kids if need be. The deal is far worse than I thought, but it is a small startup thing with a small team, who won the project since they took a huge cut on their profits. So pay is actually a lot less than half what I make, more like 1/3 of what I make if that. So I can see how she cannot afford to cover any shared expenses. She probably will barely be able to cover her own expenses. We will see. But all signs point to her taking the job, and we will just adjust. But if divorce happens, it happens, that is life. I do love my wife, but she is her own person with free will. Relevant comments. Commenter. 1. So she wants to move across the country to take a job that wouldn't even sustain her alone? Reply. She barely will be able to sustain herself. Allegedly just a temporary thing until they establish themselves as a firm company first. Commenter 2. If she takes the job, just be careful. See a lawyer about protecting assets in case of divorce. Cause my guess is she is by herself, across the country. No kids, so. It's like the old saying, when the cat's away the mice will play. Reply. If it comes to that, I would not fight it. I will give her half of what she is entitled to. Probably would also just buy her out of the house also. Not going to sweat the little things. She clearly does not like it here. She wants more, that is fine. Commenter 2. I was thinking more about your business and retirement. I hope I'm wrong, but also was thinking of doing it behind your back, not asking for divorce. Reply. That is a good point. Was not thinking about that. OOP responds to a downvoted comment on what his wife gave up when he was in medical school. What has she done to help contribute to the household? Reply. We were friends when I was in medical school. We're not dating. She did not quit her job until our second child was born, and even that was after a year or so. Leaving my obligations on such short notice is not possible and far from professional. For us to move, I would at minimum need a year. Our kids have been in daycare since they were 3, and we had grandparents' support for each child. She is not isolated or anything. Yes, I understand she wants a professional career, but this job by all metrics is a bad deal. Commenter 3. What are your hours now, and what will they be after you expand your clinic? You said your hours were already chaotic, so I'm just curious. Reply. Outside of my mandated hospital shifts, I am home no later than 7. So around 7 to 7. Once they go to sleep, I may respond to patient messages. Review and update notes from 12 to 2 once a week. Sometimes I do work weekends, since some my patients are working parents. So that is only time they can come in. But that is like 8 to 11 a.m. Only have a handful of weekend patients. That is a once-a-month thing. Edit. I know it is less than ideal, but I have my reasons for going this far. My grandfather had MS, and it was rough for him. Commenter 4. I would reconsider child support when the time comes. Your children are young. If you take the child support and do something towards their future, investments or such, it could dramatically change their lives, regardless of how much you earn, save, etc. With young children, it seems like there will be many challenges that we didn't have to face, and a bit extra may make an enormous difference in their lives and future. Reply. Maybe ego or pride. But if we divorce over this, I will not request CS, and let her use that money how she sees fit. Hopefully, she would do what is best for our kids. I don't want to take money from her if we separate when she claimed she could not afford it. I would want to limit my interactions with her as much as I can. If she does not pay, I don't want to have to chase her, request hearings if she does not pay, or deal with her possible adjustments. Thankfully, I have been savings for our kids from day one. I will consult my attorney if it does come to it, though. Stories number 9. My 20F friend 21F is going to great lengths to prove that my boyfriend 24M is cheating even though I know he isn't. So I live with Emily, a person I met a couple of years ago. We became fast friends, admittedly moved in together last year out of convenience, but have stayed true to our friendship, which has definitely strengthened. My boyfriend is Sam, someone I met about a year and a half ago. We've been dating for just over a year, with our relationship transitioning into an LDR about 5 months ago because Sam moved for work. I never thought that there were any issues between Emily and Sam. In our early stages, she was very gracious and seemed to know the perfect balance between socializing with Sam and giving us space. It was only when Sam moved away that she started making little comments about how funny it would be if Sam had a side chick in his new city, or that I was actually a side chick and he's gone home to his family. There is no way this is true. Sam has always been honest and open, has always mentioned that he quickly shuts girls down if they try it on with him. And as for the family thing, I helped him move into his small 2-room apartment, and not a family home. I've always shut this down very quickly whenever Emily starts on with it. However, recently she's been taking extra steps to try and make me believe that my boyfriend is cheating on me. She told me over dinner the other day that she had proof that Sam had slid into the DMs of one of her friends, and showed me a screenshot of Sam's secret Twitter account hitting on her friend about 9 months ago. This account was not Sam's username at all, and just in case it had been a secret account, I searched the username and it came up with a profile of a 15-year-old boy also called Sam. Though I told Emily this, she was insisting that this profile was my Sam, and that he was clearly catfishing using this kid, or that he was Sam's younger brother. Sam has no younger siblings. Last night she sent me an SOS message saying that there was an emergency, but after rushing home to see what was happening, she said that the emergency was that Sam doesn't have his Facebook relationship on his profile, and that it was obvious he's trying to appear single. The reason his relationship isn't public is because I asked for it not to be. Since I don't believe that my relationship status is everyone's business, we are in a relationship on Facebook, but only privately. Yet again I explained this to Emily, and she still tried to argue that he could still be cheating, and that I was subconsciously manipulated to keep the status private by him. I really wasn't. I'll clarify here that I've never said to Emily that I think Sam will cheat on me in his new city, because I don't. Simple enough. It may have been that she was jealous or wanted him for herself, but she is in a relationship of her own. Her boyfriend of 2 years is over usually 2-3 nights a week. I'm definitely going to put her on an information diet regarding my relationship, but should I consider going further? TLDR. My friend and housemate is constantly trying to convince me that my boyfriend is cheating on me using flimsy evidence. Is there a way of getting her to stop? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Is there a possibility that your friend is jealous of your relationship with Sam? I encountered a nearly identical situation with my roommate close friend last year when my boyfriend proposed. He was in the Navy at the time, and on Christmas leave, stayed at our apartment and asked me to marry him. At first, my friend was quite happy for me, but a few weeks later, her own boyfriend randomly broke up with her. Around this time, my fiancé, who was working on going sober, relapsed and got wasted one night. My friend used my fiancé's relapse as an excuse to try and convince me to break up with him. She was determined to show me that, because my fiancé relapsed, he was an unreliable guy who didn't deserve me. Realistically, my friend was just bitter that her own relationship had recently ended. She wanted someone to wallow in her misery with her. I called her out on it and she backed off, which was good because, quite honestly, she was acting ridiculous and obsessing over my relationship. Reply: she could be jealous, but she is very happy with her boyfriend unless she isn't, and she's been very good at hiding it from everyone, including her boyfriend. Maybe she just wanted me to be her single friend? Commenter 2. Is there a benefit for her if you're single? Like, do you bring Sam over to your place a lot, or are you planning on moving in soon with him away from her? Has she ever been cheated on in a similar situation? Lock your room and watch your phone. It shouldn't be. But that's how she'll get information if you stop telling her about you and Sam. Do tell her that you're no longer going to respond to her emergencies and put her on mute when possible. Then you only get upset when you're no longer busy. Commenter 3. Like, do you bring Sam over to your place a lot? This seems unlikely, as this behavior only started after Sam moved to another place and was no longer coming over frequently. Since their LDR reply, Sam and I are in an LDR, and so far he has been over for 2 weekends in 5 months. So she couldn't claim she's annoyed at his presence, especially when her boyfriend can spend half a week at our place. We're also not planning on moving in together anytime soon since I have a solid life here. To the best of my knowledge, she has never been cheated on, nor has she been in an LDR, so all of her beliefs about Sam cheating on me because we're in one are built on tales from others. Commenter 4. She sounds a bit unstable and drama queeny, to be honest. This is a case of has crazy theory, tries to get the facts to fit. It doesn't really matter what her motive is. Tell her bluntly that you feel she's trying to ruin your relationship, and that if she doesn't stop, the friendship will be over. Update. My 20th friend 21F is going to great lengths to prove that my boyfriend 24M is cheating, even though I know he isn't. So I posted a few days ago about my housemate, Emily, who had made it her life's mission to try and make me see that my long-distance boyfriend Sam was cheating on me. After posting my original post, I sat Emily down and told her that I would not be engaging in conversation with her about Sam at all. She tried to claim it was all in my best interests to listen to her, but did rein it in, drama over, until it all blew up. I got a very angry message yesterday from Emily's boyfriend calling me every name under the sun, including a home wrecker. I asked him what the hell was going on, and he said that he knew all about how I'd been cheating on Sam, and how I'd convinced Emily to do the same to him. It turns out he'd found out that Emily was on Tinder and was talking to guys, and had even met up with a couple and done whatever. I had no clue she was doing this. Whenever she left the house for the night, she always said she was staying at her boyfriend's. I told him in no uncertain terms that I had not encouraged Emily to cheat on him, and I was not cheating on Sam. He then tried to claim that Emily had told him that I was away getting with some Tinder guy on a specific evening that I wasn't in the flat. I was celebrating Sam's birthday with him in his city, and had the timed and dated photos to prove it, and of course Emily knew where I really was. I have no clue whether or not her boyfriend believes me, but I haven't had any other messages from him since. Emily was wailing my door about 10 minutes later, saying that her ex-boyfriend had gone insane and she only cheated because he was abusive. I can't say I saw anything, but I also can't say this was a definite lie, and she was scared about his reaction, so she said I was involved. She then said that I would understand her position if I had broken up with Sam like she wanted me to. I'll admit, that got my attention. I asked what she meant, and she said that she had wanted us both to be free from our partners, but she knew I wouldn't cheat on Sam, so had tried her best to convince me that he was cheating, so I would leave him. She got the door slammed in her face. Even if she did want an escape from her own abusive relationship, her nonstop attempts to persuade me to leave my boyfriend just for her own gain is enough for me to just cut her off. I didn't even wait until Emily woke up this morning to put my plan to move out into action. The landlord has been contacted and is very understanding. We're very close to the end of our tenancy anyway, so I'm breaking my lease, and I'm going to spend the night in a friend's spare room before making my next move. I might write her a goodbye note, but she hardly deserves it. I've been wondering for a while whether or not I should move to be with Sam. I think this is now going to be a big part of my decision. Also, a lot of comments in the original post were suggesting that something had happened between Sam and Emily while he was still living in this area, and she was trying to make me see that without coming clean. I didn't reply to any comments because I know the sorts of responses I would have got to. I know he's not cheated on me with Emily, but I do know he didn't. He never contacted Emily privately, and was really only friendly to her because she was my housemate. Sam was just as unlikely to cheat with Emily as I was with any of his friends, family, or housemates. I know some of you may still think that he could still have cheat in the future, and I can't definitively say he won't, but I'm not going to ruin my relationship with what-if style thoughts. TLDR, housemate who was trying to prove to me that my boyfriend was cheating was actually cheating on her boyfriend, and wanted me to join in by convincing me to dump my boyfriend. Found out from her boyfriend, who had been told that I was the one telling her to cheat on him. I wasn't. I'm moving out as quickly as my legs will let me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Make sure to photograph the apartment so that you can protect yourself should Emily try to damage the apartment after you break your lease. While your landlord may provide your security deposit, Emily may try to sue you for damages incurred during your tenancy that prevent her from getting her security deposit. Commenter 2. The strangest thing about this is that even if you were cheating on Sam, how does that make it your fault that she cheated? Does she not have free will of her own? Like she sees a friend cheat and instantly thinks that she has to as well? Emily did a great job of distracting her ex and directing his anger at you. Her ex is an idiot, though, in my opinion, to even entertain the idea that it's your fault. Clearly they aren't very mature people. Good riddance. Edit. To clarify, my questions are rhetorical. I really just asked them to point out the absurdity of the situation. You can all stop explaining to me the concept of making excuses and shitty people not taking personal responsibility. Commenter 3. I wouldn't even write her a note. She doesn't deserve it. She deserves to wake up and realize that there is no one there anymore, and needs to realize that when you do stuff like this, people will leave you. What she did was insane. I'm happy that you finally found out what the hell was going on. Stories number 10. My ex abandoned me during my pregnancy, and now he's demanding our daughter take his last name. I just became a mom for the first time. I'm 24, and my daughter is only a couple weeks old. Her name is Lily, and she is the absolute love of my life already. But the circumstances around her birth, and especially what's happened since, have left me feeling torn between standing my ground and wondering if I'm being too stubborn. When I found out I was pregnant last year, I was scared but determined. I told my boyfriend at the time, let's call him Jason. We'd been together for a little over a year, His first reaction wasn't excitement. He went pale, quiet, and then started talking about how this isn't the right time, and how maybe I should consider other options. I told him I wasn't terminating. I wanted this baby, he said. He wasn't ready to be a dad. And from that point on, he checked out throughout my pregnancy. Jason completely abandoned me. He didn't come to doctor's appointments. He didn't check in to see how I was doing. He didn't offer emotional or financial support. He didn't even answer half the time when I called. He moved in with a friend, blocked me on social media for a while, and basically left me to go through one of the hardest experiences of my life by myself. I had to keep working while dealing with morning sickness and back pain. I went to prenatal appointments alone. I sat through ultrasounds wishing he was there to see our daughter's heartbeat, but he wasn't. I leaned on my mom and my best friend, and they were amazing. But Jason? He was nowhere to be found, I told myself over and over again. Fine. He doesn't want to be part of this? That's his choice. I'll raise my child on my own, and honestly, I started to feel stronger for it. I set up Lily's nursery myself, painted the walls, bought her crib and clothes with money I saved. I went into labor scared but hopeful that at the end of it, I'd meet my daughter and she'd make everything worth it. Then, after Lily was born, Jason suddenly appeared. Not just him. His entire family, his mother, his father, and even his sister showed up at the hospital like they were swooping in to claim her. I was still exhausted, stitched, barely able to walk. And suddenly I was surrounded by people I hadn't seen in 9 months. People who hadn't so much as texted me during my pregnancy. Jason's mom said, "We want to be part of the baby's life, of course, but she needs to have Jason's last name. She's their last name. That's her family." Jason himself didn't even look ashamed. He said, "If you give her my last name, we'll make sure you get financial help, diapers, formula, whatever you need. But she should carry my name." I was stunned. First of all, financial support for Lily isn't some bargaining chip. It's his legal and moral responsibility. It shouldn't be something dangled over my head like a condition. Second, where were they all this time? When I was crying in the bathroom with swollen ankles, scared out of my mind. When I was working late shifts while 8 months pregnant. When I was making decisions about her crib, her clothes, her entire future. Now they show up and act like they're entitled to something? I told them no, Lily has my last name. That's the name on her birth certificate. I'm her mother. I've been here every step of the way. And she's not going to carry the name of a man who abandoned her before she even took her first breath. Jason's dad said, "Don't be vindictive. This isn't about you, it's about the child." His sister chimed in. "Think about her future. Don't you want her to know her father's side too?" I lost it a little, I told them. Where was her father's side when I was pregnant? Where was her father when I needed him? He doesn't get to vanish for 9 months and then stroll in here and start making demands. Jason muttered something about me being dramatic and said if I cut him out, Lily would hate me one day for it. I told him if he really wanted to be a father, he should have shown up when it counted. They left angry. His mom told me I was selfish and spiteful. Jason texted me later that night saying I was ruining his chance to be a dad, and that I should reconsider before Lily grows up without knowing who she is. Here's the thing. I'm not saying Jason can never be in Lily's life. If he actually wants to step up, be consistent, and show that he's capable of being a decent father, I won't stand in the way. But Lily's last name? That feels symbolic to me. Giving her his name feels like erasing all the struggle I went through by myself and rewarding him for doing nothing. She's my daughter, and I want her to carry my name. And let's be real, if I agreed to give her his name just for financial support, what's to stop them from holding other things over my head? What if they say, "We'll only help if you let us make parenting decisions"? That's not a partnership. That's coercion. My mom says I'm right to stand firm. My best friend says Jason is just trying to rewrite the story so he doesn't look like the bad guy. But I keep hearing his family's words in my head. That I'm being selfish. That Lily deserves his name. That maybe I'm letting my pride get in the way. The truth is, I don't feel selfish. I feel protective. I carried this little girl. I brought her into this world. I have fought for her since day one. And I refuse to let anyone tell me I owe them the right to define her identity when they couldn't even show up when she needed them most. So, that's where I'm at. A tired, hormonal new mom, holding my daughter, and wondering if I'm truly doing the right thing by standing firm on this. So I wasn't expecting to write an update this soon, but things have escalated in ways I didn't think they would. After my first post, I decided to go quiet for a bit, focus on Lily, and let the dust settle, but Jason and his family clearly weren't ready to drop it. About 3 days after we came home from the hospital, Jason showed up at my apartment. He didn't even text first. He just knocked. I was in sweatpants, hair a mess, nursing Lily, and suddenly he was standing in my doorway with this "I'm the dad, I have a right" look on his face. I didn't even know what to say at first. He asked to come in, so I let him, because part of me thought maybe this was his attempt to actually step up. Instead, he sat on my couch and started in on the same speech as before. "It's not right that she doesn't have my last name. I'm her father. She's my daughter too. You don't get to erase me from her life," I told him again, calmly, that I'm not erasing him. If he wants to be part of her life, he needs to prove it through actions, not just words. But the last name issue was non-negotiable. She's already registered with my last name. The birth certificate is done, and I'm not changing it. He got agitated and said his family feels disrespected. Apparently his mom has been telling relatives that the baby's name situation is a disgrace to their family. Like, "Excuse me? Where was this family pride when I was going to doctor's appointments alone?" The real kicker was when Jason said, "Look, if you let me put my last name on the birth certificate, my mom and dad will set up a college fund for Lily, hundreds of dollars a month. Guaranteed." That made my blood boil, I told him. "If you actually cared about Lily's future, you wouldn't put conditions on supporting her. You don't get to buy naming rights like this is a stadium deal." He stormed out after that, muttering something about getting a lawyer. I was shaking when he left. Not because I was scared, but because I realized he might actually try. The next day I went to talk to a family lawyer. Just a consultation. I needed to know my rights. The lawyer confirmed what I already thought. Jason has zero legal rights until he establishes paternity. And even then, custody, visitation, and name changes are separate issues. The court isn't going to force me to change her last name just because he wants it. That gave me some peace of mind, though it still stresses me out that this could turn into a battle. Meanwhile, my support system has been rallying around me. My mom has been here almost every day, helping with feedings and cleaning. My best friend Sarah brought me a hot meal and told me flat out, "Don't let him rewrite history. He abandoned you, period. Don't let guilt make you cave." Hearing that helped. Jason's family hasn't stopped, though. His sister DM'd me on Instagram saying I'm robbing Lily of her heritage. His mom left a voicemail basically begging me to reconsider for the sake of family unity. I didn't respond. Here's the wild part. Jason posted a picture of Lily on his Facebook without asking me. He must have snapped it when he came by. He captioned it, "Welcome to the world, Lily." His last name. "Daddy loves you." I saw it because a mutual friend tagged me. I nearly lost it. I immediately messaged him and said, "Take that post down or I'll report it." He refused, saying, "It's my right to post my own daughter." I had to get my lawyer to send a cease and desist letter about using her name and likeness online without my consent. That finally got him to take it down, but it's made me realize he's more interested in appearances than actually being present. Since then, Jason hasn't visited again. He sends the occasional text like, "Can I come by?" or "Can I see Lily today?" But the vibe is less about her and more about trying to win points with his family. I've been cautious. I told him he can see her if he shows consistency and respect. But no more surprise visits, no more family barging in, and absolutely no more trying to undermine my decisions. I've started keeping a journal of every interaction, just in case this does go to court one day. Times, dates, what was said, who was present. My lawyer advised me to do that. And honestly, it makes me feel more in control. Here's the thing, though. Every time I look at Lily, I know I did the right thing. She's so tiny, so pure. And she deserves to grow up without being treated like a bargaining chip. She doesn't need a name to validate her worth or prove who her dad is. What she needs is love, stability, and consistency. Right now, I'm the only one who's given her that. Do I still feel guilty sometimes? Yes, I hear Jason's words echoing, that Lily might hate me one day for this decision. But deep down, I think when she's older and knows the truth, she'll understand I'm not cutting him out. I'm just protecting her from a family who thinks they can buy or bully their way into control. So that's where things stand now. I don't know if Jason will actually follow through with a lawyer, or if this is just posturing. I don't know if his family will eventually back off or keep pushing, but I do know one thing. Lily is mine, and I will fight for her no matter what. So here we are, a few months later, and I can finally give you all a final update. I didn't think this would drag out as long as it did, But wow, it's been a roller coaster. After my last post, Jason was still sending me these half-hearted, "Can I see Lily today?" texts. Sometimes he'd follow through, sometimes he'd flake last minute, and other times he'd just go silent for days. It was exhausting. I wanted Lily to have a relationship with her dad, but I also wasn't about to raise her in a revolving door situation where she never knew if he'd show up. The real breaking point came when Jason's mom called me one evening out of the blue. She basically said, "We've talked it over as a family, and if you don't agree to change Lily's last name, Jason is going to take you to court." "You're being unfair to all of us," I told her, as calmly as I could, that supporting Lily wasn't optional. It's his responsibility whether her last name matches his or not. And then I hung up. I cried afterward, not because I doubted my choice, but because it hit me how twisted it all was. They weren't showing up with diapers or groceries or offers to babysit. They were showing up with threats. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Jason actually filed a paternity action. He wanted legally recognized rights and specifically included a request to amend the birth certificate to reflect his surname. When my lawyer told me, my stomach dropped, but she immediately reassured me that judges rarely, if ever, order name changes against the custodial parent's will unless there's a clear reason, and family pride wasn't one. The court process took months. Jason had to submit to a DNA test to establish paternity. Surprise, surprise, he is the father. Once that came back, the judge scheduled mediation, and let me tell you, that mediation session was surreal. Jason showed up in a suit 2 sizes too big, clearly coached by his mom. She was in the lobby when I arrived, whispering in his ear. When we got in the room, Jason immediately started saying I was alienating him from his daughter. My lawyer calmly slid over a binder with copies of all the texts where he flaked or didn't show. The mediator read them, raised an eyebrow, and that was that. Long story short, Jason got some visitation rights, supervised at first, because Lily is so young, but the judge shut down the name change request hard. The judge literally said, "This child has been registered with her mother's surname since birth. Stability is important, and there is no compelling reason to alter it." I almost cried in relief. After court, Jason gave me this look, like I'd betrayed him. But honestly, I think he realized for the first time that words and appearances don't carry more weight than actual actions. Since then, things have been quieter. Jason has been showing up to supervised visits, but it's awkward. He brings toys, holds Lily for a bit, then hands her back when she fusses. It's not terrible, but it's not the picture-perfect family his mom pretends it is. Speaking of his mom, she's been completely cut off from me. I blocked her number after she left one too many guilt-tripping voicemails. If Jason wants to involve her later, that's his business. But for now, I'm not dealing with her drama. Here's the thing. I don't hate Jason. I think he genuinely does love Lily, in his own flawed way, but he's immature, easily swayed by his family and not consistent. And that's why I stood my ground. Lily deserves stability, not bargaining chips and family power plays. The best part of all of this, Lily is thriving. She's smiling now, cooing, and gaining weight like a champ. She doesn't know anything about courts or last names. She just knows when I rock her, when I sing to her, when I hold her close at night. That's what matters. Sometimes I still wonder if, when she's older, she'll ask why her last name doesn't match her dad's. But when that day comes, I'll tell her the truth. I'll tell her I chose the name of the person who showed up every single day for her. And if she decides she wants to change it later, that'll be her choice, not something forced on her by people more worried about image than her well-being. So yeah, that's the end of it. Jason has partial visitation, no name change, and I've got full custody as the primary parent. It's not a fairy tale ending, but it's real, and I'm proud of myself for standing my ground. Not just for me, but for Lily, to everyone who said, "Protect your peace. Protect your baby." Thank you. You were right. And to anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, don't let guilt, manipulation, or empty promises sway you. Your baby deserves love, not conditions. Lily is mine, and I've got her back for life. Stories number 11. The phone company assigned Nintendo Game Support number as my home number. Many years ago, I moved into a house in Redmond, Washington, home to Microsoft, and soon I discovered Nintendo of America. Both companies had offices a few blocks from my house. A few months before I moved in, Nintendo canceled their local number for game support hotline to an 800 number and gave up on the local number. This meant anyone across the US or Canada calling that number would not reach Nintendo. The phone company assigned the old number as my residential phone number. As soon as the phone was plugged in, it started ringing off the hook with people calling to get support for a game at all hours of the day. I called the phone company and initially, they refused to change the number. They told me the company policy was to charge a hefty fee to switch the number, and there was no guarantee it would not be an old business number. I just moved in, so I didn't have the cash. Instead of dealing with the endless calls, I decided to pick up the phone and get my petty revenge. First, I would demand a credit card from any caller. I told them to go into mommy's purse and pull one out. Then I would have them read the number and name off the card. I never wrote the information down. I just wanted to see what would happen if I asked for it. Sometimes the parents would pick up the phone and start screaming at me. So I started screaming back. I would thank them for the new TV, complain that the card was over the limit, and do anything I felt would entertain me. I said some things that were inappropriate 30 years ago, and they are even less appropriate today. I'm not proud of it, but I was young, frustrated, and thought if I was annoying enough, they would switch the number. Sure enough, one day I picked up the phone, and it was the local phone company telling me good news. We will be updating your number at no cost. I guess more than a few parents called Nintendo demanding I be fired for my behavior on the phone, and that's when they realized I didn't work there, and the mistake of letting the old phone number go. The new number had never been used previously, so no more 2 a.m. calls except from drunk dialing friends. Comments. Commenter 1. My home number was a daycare's old number. Guess how many kids hadn't been dropped off that morning before they were willing to change it? Commenter 2. This is why it used to be standard procedure to leave numbers unassigned for a year before reassigning them. Didn't entirely solve the problem, of course, but cut way down on it. Commenter 3. Oh wow. That's a pretty good revenge story, even though the middle-aged me with 2 kids technically does not approve. But yeah, you got 2 big orgs who couldn't give a crap that this happened to you. So you had to try something drastic. Reply, I agree with you. I mentioned I made some comments I would not have made today. I cannot believe how many kids fetch the credit card when asked. Commenter 4. If I spoke to a Mr. Smith at the phone company that wouldn't change the number for me, I'd give every caller his number and have them ask to talk to Mr. Smith. The absolute expert on that game. I bet you a lot of people will do that blindly, even ignoring the fact that it says phone company, or even do an automatic redirect if that's possible. Stories number 12. Aita, for not apologizing for withholding financial support. Until my son passed his paternity test, I 55 have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. My son is my oldest, and up until recently I thought he was a decent man. Unfortunately, my daughter-in-law, Tessa, 32F, fake name showed me that I was wrong. And when revealed to me that the reason she was divorcing my son was because he cheated on multiple times and gave her an STD, she made a social media post with pictures of text messages and show video recordings of messages he left proving her side. I was shocked, and when I confronted my son, he said that she over-exaggerating, and that the only reason he did it was because she wasn't putting out. Tessa gave birth to their second child 7 months ago, and their first child is 3 years old. I apologized to Tessa for my son's behavior, and then yelled at him for being so selfish, intentionally hurtful, and cruel. I did not hide or downplay my disappointment, and was only silenced by my wife's defense of our son. I remember how hard it was when my wife had our second daughter, and couldn't believe she didn't have a shred of sympathy for Tessa. Tessa is a sweet and smart person, and she didn't deserve what our son did. My wife has been letting our son stay in our house despite my wishes, saying that he needs our support. But I say he's in need of a hard lesson. We fought about this constantly. Eventually, my son accused Tessa of getting the STD from someone else and demanded a paternity test. I knew these claims were bullish and saw red. I yelled at him for it, and his mother came to his defense and told me a man had every right to know if his kids were his. I countered with demanding a test of my own, and my wife was offended and I moved out. She and my son sent others after me, and either lied and overplayed what things were like at home, and I just got tired defending myself. I was going to let things be until either my wife or son contacted my job and made hurtful accusations about a female employee that I've been mentoring for the past year. And that's when I snapped, I'm filing for divorce. The house is paid off, so I'm willing to let her have it, but until a judge says so, I've stopped putting money in any of the accounts that she has access to and only make payments to the credit card with the 4K limit. So she has money to buy groceries, get gas, and pay for her other expenses. I've also changed my main beneficiaries to my daughters, and told my son if he wanted a single cent of my money, he'd have to take a DNA test. He later did and he passed, and I responded with an email acknowledgement that he was my son, as well as a copy of re-updated will, where he will receive 10% of my assets. My wife and son are demanding a public apology, but I don't feel like they deserve it. Am I wrong? Edit to add, just to be clear since people seem to be skipping over it, but my wife called my job and accused one of my mentees of getting special treatment in exchange for special favors from me and other men in the company. She made such a big public stink that HR is investigating and my mentee is considering leaving due to the embarrassment and stress, not to mention the damage to my own professional relationship. Relevant comments, OP on the 4K limit reply, I can't speak for everyone. When I applied for that credit card, I specifically asked for that limit and was granted it. It's mostly used for utilities, HOA fees, and paying the people who cut our yard through automatic payments. OP on the situation his wife has caused at his workplace reply. I didn't say it in the post, but my wife viciously went over a nice young woman in my company that I've been mentoring for the past year. We've always kept a professional relationship that I was always open with my wife about, and she made the choice to go after, accusing her of getting special treatment from me and other men in exchange for favors. There's an active investigation at HR about, because of how public my wife has decided to be, and some people are starting to believe it. I spent decades building up my professional reputation, and my wife chose to destroy it. I can't stay married to that. My wife openly accused a young woman that I've been mentoring for the past year of trading favors in exchange for special favors from me and other men in the company. HR has been contacted, and I've heard from others that the situation has caused my mentee to cry, as well as consider quitting, not to mention damaging my own reputation. Commenter 1. Is it just me, or did she like 100% cheat on OP before? Reply, I did have to go on a lot of road trips in the beginning of my career. OP shouldn't give up the house if he was to divorce. Reply, I honestly never really loved the house and wanted to move anyway. Please, if she sold it, she could live off of that money, which might mean less money I'd have to pay to her later on. OP responds to a downvoted comment on giving a low blow to his wife and son, and taking his DIL's side instead. Reply, I want to be a man who has a son that he can be proud of. I can't speak for others, but cheating on your wife and giving her an STD, and then accusing her of the immoral behavior that you're doing, is nothing to be proud of. Being family doesn't mean you have to stand by them when they're so blatantly wrong, at least for me. Commenter 2. Now that he's proven he's your son, leave the money to his children. Reply, I'm leaving my son something because I told him I would if he was proven to be my son. I don't know the specifics, but if I leave him something, then he can't legally challenge my will. I am going to leave my grandchild something. It's just taking a minute to see what my options are, because I want to put it in a trust that neither parent can touch. Not because I don't trust their mom, but because I want to remove the stress and drama of her having to be in charge of it. Commenter 3. OP didn't make social media posts. The DIL did because her husband was cheating on her and gave her an STD. OP didn't make things public. His wife and son did when they told other people lies about him and contacted his employer. I think asking for a paternity test was a bit over the top, but the wife and son sound like two awful peas in a pod. Don't blame you for divorcing her. They are both AHs. Hopefully you can maintain a good relationship with your DIL and your grandchildren. Commenter 4. The DIL did because her husband was cheating on her and gave her an STD. We don't know who gave who an STD because OP never said anything about the test results of the kid. Reply, my son admitted to cheating in text messages and voice messages that my daughter-in-law posted on social media and to my face during one of our arguments. Update, Aita for not apologizing for withholding financial support until my son passed his paternity test? Because I still see a few people writing update me, I thought I'd give a little update to the chaos that is my life. In short, the young woman who I was mentoring talked to HR is leaving the company and will be suing my wife for defamation. I am also being pushed to leave, despite HR clearing me of any wrongdoing. A lot of people in the office just give me dirty looks and/or keep their distance. I've also gotten a lawyer. She feels confident that because the evidence of my wife's blatant attempt to sabotage my reputation at work, I can just give her a lump settlement instead of alimony. My lawyer also agrees to a lot of you in regards to not just giving my wife the house, but rather sale it and split the profits. I'm back in the house for now per my lawyer's advice, and it's pretty miserable right now. Definitely drinking a lot more than I used to, just trying to hang on. I've also had some hard but honest conversations with my daughters, and I have come to accept that there are certain aspects of fatherhood that I failed in. I did show up to school events and spend time with my children, but overall I let my wife do the majority of the parenting, and she favored our son. I just never really paid much attention, and my daughters didn't feel as if they could talk until now. However, they're still willing to have a relationship with me and are on my side with the divorce. I haven't spoken to my daughter-in-law much, but she did send me a thank you text for standing up for her. Thanks for reading. Top comments. Commenter. 1. Good news is it's not too late to try and heal the relationship with your daughters and be an involved grandparent. I'm betting this isn't the way you planned things to be, but I think you can make things better than they were. Talk to your daughters and DIL, and ask them if there's anything you can do to become a better grandparent. Commenter. 2. Can't believe your wife rang your place of work and sabotaged you. What a cow. Your colleagues shouldn't be privy to that, as HR should have kept it quiet until an investigation was done. Don't get pushed out. You did nothing wrong and the gossip will die down. Definitely get half the house in your divorce. Your wife doesn't deserve to keep it. Your son is a spoiled brat. Feel sorry for your daughter-in-law. Commenter 3. Quit drinking and spend more time with your daughters. Instead of wallowing in drinks, start rebuilding your relationship with them. Let that occupy your time and energy. Glad to hear you got a good lawyer. Document what is happening at work. And consult an employment lawyer too. Commenter 4. Try to get the mentee to hold off her lawsuit until the property is divided. Otherwise, the award will come out of the combined joint assets, and you will lose money from your share. If she waits, you will get your share, and the award will come directly from her assets. Stories number 13. My husband Michael and I are both 37. We've been married for almost 12 years, and we have an 11-year-old daughter named Emily. Up until recently, if someone had asked me what kind of dad Michael was, I probably would have said strict but loving. He's always been the kind of guy who believes kids need discipline and structure, and for the most part I didn't really question it. I grew up in a loud house, so raised voices didn't automatically mean danger to me. But the way things have been going lately has made me realize there's a difference between discipline and tearing a child down. It started gradually. A few months ago I noticed Michael raising his voice more often at Emily over small things. If she didn't put her shoes away fast enough, if she forgot to turn off the bathroom light, or if she got distracted when he asked her to help with something. It wasn't constant, but it was enough that I started feeling uneasy. Emily's always been a sensitive kid. Bright, curious, and funny. But she feels things deeply. I could tell his words were hitting her harder than he realized. The first time I really spoke up was when I overheard him telling her to stop acting like a brat because she didn't want to finish her broccoli. I pulled him aside afterward and told him that calling her names wasn't okay. He brushed it off, saying I was babying her and that she needed to learn the world wasn't always gentle. I let it go in the moment, but it stayed with me. Then, about a week ago, things escalated. I got home from work one evening, and Michael casually told me that he had to lay down the law with Emily because she wasn't listening. He said it like he was proud of himself, like he'd done something good. But when I went upstairs to check on Emily, I found her curled up on her bed with her blanket pulled up to her chin. Her eyes were red from crying. I sat down next to her and asked what happened, and she broke down. She told me her dad had shouted at her so loudly she thought the neighbors might have heard. He told her she was a horrible child. She said she hated being at home when I wasn't there, and she whispered that she couldn't wait until she was old enough to leave. Hearing that from my little girl felt like someone punched me in the stomach. She's only 11. She should feel safe and loved in her own home, not counting down the years until she can escape. I hugged her and told her it wasn't her fault. She sobbed and kept saying, "He doesn't like me, Mom. He really doesn't like me." I had to fight my own tears because I didn't want her to think I was upset with her. After she calmed down a little, I made a snap decision. I told her to pack a bag, just a few essentials, and we'd go stay at my parents' house for a while. She looked at me like she wasn't sure if I was serious, but when she realized I was, her whole body seemed to relax a little. She grabbed her backpack and stuffed in some clothes, her toothbrush, and her favorite stuffed animal. When I went back downstairs with her bag, Michael looked confused. He asked where we were going. I told him straight, "Emily needs space from you right now. We're going to my parents." He immediately got defensive, saying I was overreacting and making a big deal out of nothing. I told him that calling an 11-year-old a horrible child and making her cry until she Feels like she can't live in her own home, wasn't? Nothing, he said he didn't. Want to have to tiptoe around her all the time. I told him it wasn't about tiptoeing. It was about not crushing her spirit. That's when he started realizing I wasn't bluffing. When he saw Emily standing there with her backpack avoiding his eyes, his tone shifted. He started apologizing, saying he didn't mean it, that he just lost his temper, and that she was taking things too seriously. But by then, my mind was made up. I told him he could think about it while we were gone. Then Emily and I got in the car and left. At my parents' house, Emily was like a different kid. My mom made her hot chocolate. My dad let her watch a movie with him, and she actually laughed. A real belly laugh that I hadn't heard in a while. Watching her relax in an environment where she felt safe broke my heart and made me angry all at once. It hit me that she shouldn't have to leave her own home to feel that way. Over the next few days, Michael called and texted me a lot. At first he was angry, accusing me of undermining him. Then he shifted to guilt, telling me I was tearing the family apart. Finally, he landed on apologetic, saying he didn't realize how bad it had gotten, and that he would try to do better. I told him that trying wasn't good enough. He needed to actually commit to changing how he talked to Emily. I suggested counseling. Both marriage counseling for us and individual therapy for him to learn better ways to manage his temper. At first he resisted. He said therapy was for people with real problems. But I stood firm. I told him that unless he agreed, Emily and I would be staying at my parents' indefinitely. That seemed to get through to him. He finally said he'd give it a shot, though I could tell he was reluctant. It's been a couple of weeks since then, and things are cautiously better. Michael has started going to therapy sessions. The first few were rocky, but he's stuck with it so far. When we came back home, I laid down clear boundaries. No yelling, no name-calling, and if he felt himself getting too frustrated, he had to step away until he calmed down. To his credit, he's been trying. Emily is still wary around him. She flinches a little when his voice rises, even if it's just him talking loudly about something unrelated. That kills me. But I've also seen her start to open up again when he's gentle. I don't know what the future looks like for our marriage. Honestly, part of me resents Michael for letting it get this far. Another part of me hopes therapy will help him grow into the dad Emily deserves. Right now, my priority is Emily's well-being. If I see him slip back into old patterns, I won't hesitate to leave again. And this time, it might be permanent. Was what I did okay? I don't know if it was perfect, but I know in that moment, my daughter needed to see me stand up for her. She needed to know she mattered more than keeping the peace. And if nothing else, I'll always be proud of myself for showing her that her voice and her feelings are important. Stories number 14. I think my boyfriend has been tricking me into picking up his poop in our yard. Hi all. I'm sorry for the wait on updating. My post got put under review, and I wasn't sure if that meant if I was allowed to update or not. But I know quite a few people wanted an update, so I thought I'd try to post one anyway. My original post is on my profile, but if you haven't read it, the TLDR is that my boyfriend nagged me to pick up his dog's poop. So I did. Then one day I caught him pooping in our yard and he completely shut down on me. Thanks everyone, got all of your comments. I did cry a bit because I realized how stupid I sounded defending him. But I did have a bit of a laugh thanks to that person who called him a brown flag LOL. I saw some people saying to install cameras or feed him corn and other such solutions. Unfortunately, I don't have the disposable income to set up cameras, and I flat out refuse to pick up any more of that goddamn poop. Anyway, on to the update. A couple of days after my post, I sat him down and told him that if we didn't discuss the issue, he could pack his bags and leave. For context, this house belonged to my grandparents and was left to me. We both lived there rent-free. He started getting defensive and asking me if I'd really kick him out over a stupid misunderstanding. So I asked him what I was misunderstanding. Was I misunderstanding that he had been pooping in the yard on a regular basis? He again called me delusional and asked if this was really the hill I wanted to die on. I told him that calling me names was getting us nowhere, and I wanted answers now. He floundered a bit and told me that there was nothing wrong with pooping outside when there was no more toilet paper. I kept a lot of the comments in mind when entering this discussion, so I asked him why he would choose the most illogical choice instead of pooping, not wiping and just getting into the shower. He replied that he didn't want to get his hair wet, which is ridiculous considering we literally have a shower cap, but anyway. So then I asked how pooping outside solves the issue of having nothing to wipe with. Now he's outside with a poopy ass and has to walk it back inside without wiping? He told me that it was manly to poop in the wild and I wouldn't understand since I'm a woman. At this point in the discussion, I was starting to get so frustrated with these bogus excuses, because literally what? I replied that there's nothing wild about our suburban backyard, so to cut the crap. Then he started yelling at me and asking why I wouldn't trust him, and why I kept accusing him of something so ridiculous. Not gonna lie, I really struggle with confrontation, so I did start crying. But I stood my ground and told him that I wasn't going to let him turn this on me when I caught him doing something weird, and then acting shady. He then started saying, "So what if I like to poop outside? How is that your problem?" To which I said it's absolutely my problem if I'm picking up poop, and I don't know whether it's coming from a human or a dog. I don't want to make this too long, but we kept going back and forth for literally over an hour, by the end of which we were both yelling, and then he punched me. It sounds so ridiculous and insane that our argument led to him literally punching me in the mouth. My lip started bleeding, and he said something like, "Now that'll shut you up." I was furious. I told him to pack his shit and get out of my house. He started saying some stuff about how he lives here too, and legally I can't remove him. But his name isn't on any bills here, so as far as I'm aware, he can't claim to be a tenant. I told him again to get out, or else I'd call my dad huge, scary-looking guy, and he told me to try it and see what happens. So naturally I did. I went into the other room and called my dad, who was of course angry beyond words. When I went back into the other room a few minutes later, my boyfriend was literally gone, like I'm not even kidding. The front door was wide open and he was just gone like the wind. My dad arrived shortly after and stayed for the next few days in case my boyfriend returned. We looked around the house for the dog too, but there was no sign of her, so I guess he took her with him when he hightailed it out of here. I haven't seen nor heard from him since that happened. I guess it's safe to say we're broken up now. I have absolutely no intention of getting back with him should he return anyway. I have no clue where he is right now, and he left all of his things behind, so I'm assuming he has to come back eventually? Anyway, that's all for now. I guess I'll edit or put another update if anything changes. Edit? Apparently you can't see my previous post, so I reposted it directly to my profile. Thanks for pointing that out. Comments? Commenter 1. You handled a ridiculous and abusive situation like a boss. No one should be putting you in danger over poop or anything else. Good riddance to him and major props for standing your ground. Reply. I was just so surprised and taken aback, because this is his first time abusing me. Thanks for your words. I'm trying my best to feel proud of myself for not folding, despite the guilt of letting the situation escalate like this. Commenter 2, so he left without all his stuff? Whatever you do, don't throw it away for now. He could turn the law against you since it is his property. Also, since I didn't get to read the first post, was the dog his or yours before living together? Reply, hi. Thanks for letting me know. I just reposted it directly to my account, so hopefully you can read it there. It's his dog that he had before we started dating. Reply, commenter 2, thank you. Holy hell, read it. Dude was asking you to do it? I was thinking it was just a case of, you were already doing it anyways. But just all of a sudden asking you to go out and pretty much search for any missed poops. The jerk knew what he was doing. Could be a weird dominance thing. Commenter 3. I'm so glad to see an update. The original post left me with so many questions. I did not see the punch in the face coming. That's for damn sure. While it sucks that he did that, I'm pretty glad he stopped with one punch. The dude is a little off his rocker. And while one punch is definitely one too many, that gives you the ammo to file a police report, get a restraining order, and even press charges if you'd like. And I really hope you do that, because chances are that he will re-enter the picture at some point. Preparedness in the form of legal repercussions are key to keeping his shitty ass away from you. Commenter 4. If this is real, the XBF is mentally ill. I mean, he's pooping in a suburban yard, duping his partner into cleaning it up, lying about it, gaslighting her when she questions him and then hits her. That's insane. Good on you for calling your dad OP, and please make sure you change the locks. It's an expense, yes, but you can buy a new lock at a hardware store and install it yourself. Get dad to help if you need him. Your safety is worth it. Stories number 15. Last weekend, my partner Jessica and I decided to go see a movie we'd both been waiting on for months. We don't go out to the cinema all the time. It's expensive, and usually we just stream things at home. But there's something special about catching a film on the big screen. The smell of popcorn, the way the sound fills the room, even the ritual of watching the trailers together. It's supposed to feel like an experience. We picked an evening show at our local AMC, hoping it would be a chill crowd. The theater was about half full. In front of us sat a group of 4 girls. maybe 16 or 17 years old. They were dressed up like they'd just come from the mall. Phones in hand, giggling loudly the whole thing. During the trailers they were chatting away and I didn't think much of it. Everyone talks a little during previews. No big deal, but as soon as the film started, it was non-stop. Snapchat camera sounds, bursts of laughter at things unrelated to the movie, whispers that were loud enough to be conversations. At first I thought, okay, maybe they'll settle down once they get into the story. Nope. If anything, it got worse. The movie itself had a lot of quiet, tense moments, the kind where you're supposed to be holding your breath, taking in every sound. Instead, all I could hear was, "Wait, what did he say? Oh my God, look at this picture. Send it to me, send it to me." Loud laughter, two guys sitting behind, and a little to the side of them kept glancing at each other and shaking their heads. You could tell they were annoyed, but neither of them wanted to say anything. Honestly, I think it was because the group was young girls, and they didn't want to come off as creepy older guys confronting teenagers. After about 20 minutes, I couldn't take it anymore. I leaned forward slightly and said, in what I swear was a polite, calm tone, "Hey guys, could you stop talking please? I'm trying to watch the movie." One girl turned around with this blank expression and went, "Sorry, what do you want?" The other one smirked and just said flat out, "No," like, no explanation. No sorry, just pure entitlement. I was so taken aback I actually laughed a little under my breath, because who just says no when someone politely asks for basic respect in a public space? Jessica squeezed my arm, whispering that she'd go get a staff member if it kept up. Before she even left, though, an usher actually came in with a flashlight, probably because other people had already complained. The second the staff member walked through, the girls went dead silent, phones away, eyes on the screen like little angels. The usher scanned the rows, saw nothing out of order, and left, not even a minute later, as soon as the door closed. The whispering and giggling started right back up. To be fair, it was a little quieter than before, maybe because they knew they were pushing it, but it was still distracting. At that point, I just gave up on the idea of getting fully immersed in the movie. Instead, I sat there stewing, wondering what happened to basic public etiquette, like, if you want to sit around gossiping and scrolling through Instagram, why pay $15 for a ticket? Why ruin it for everyone else who actually came to see the film? I kept sneaking looks at Jessica, who was clearly annoyed too, but she didn't want us to cause a bigger scene. By the time the credits rolled, I wasn't even thinking about the ending of the movie. I was just thinking about how those girls had hijacked the entire experience for everyone sitting near them. When the lights came up, the two guys behind them just kind of sighed and shook their heads. One of them muttered something like, "Unbelievable," and I felt the exact same way. The group of girls strolled out like nothing happened, laughing and scrolling on their phones, completely oblivious to how selfish they'd been. On the drive home, Jessica and I talked about how much public courtesy has gone downhill. We both grew up in households where going to the movies was a treat. You sat down, you watched, and you respected the people around you. I don't know if it's phones, or entitlement, or just that people don't care anymore, but it made me sad. It also made me realize why I don't go to the theater as much anymore. I know it might sound dramatic, but sitting there and being told no when I politely asked for quiet just really stuck with me. It wasn't just about the movie. It was the fact that some people genuinely don't think the rules apply to them. I'll probably still go to the movies, but next time, I'm going to pick a matinee or wait a week so the theater isn't full of teens trying to turn it into a social hour. Stories number 16. I think my kid's school lied about calling CPS rather than calling my husband to pick her up. Our daughter's 7 started school last month. I told the front office under no circumstance should they call me if something happens to her, especially Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I work, and I am not allowed to have my phone on my person while working. They were told explicitly to call her father, who works overnight but is home all day. As a result, I get to my lunch break today. And what do I find? But 16 missed calls from the school. I assume she's been hospitalized, or there's been an active shooter. Something horrible that warrants 16 calls to the parent they were told not to call. I call the school frantically before even looking at my voicemail, and find that they called me because she threw up, blood. Nope. Regular throw up. But because I didn't answer, this woman considered it abandonment and made a call to CPS. I asked if they'd called my husband. Nope, just me. And I didn't answer, which isn't allowed. I called him and he went to pick her up. There was a woman sitting with her in the nurse's office who was also there during orientation night, but she wasn't our kid's teacher or administration, so we didn't get introduced to her. As soon as my husband got there, she scurried off, and when he asked the woman at the front desk who she was, she reiterated that she had called someone about your wife abandoning your daughter, and told him if it happened again it would be a lot more serious. And we should consider making sure mom's always there when her kid needs her. There is no fucking way that a CPS agent is just hanging around this school at all times, and didn't bother to stick around to lecture a parent who abandoned their kid when they showed up. I think they lied because they don't like that dad is supposed to be their primary point of contact. I'm going to follow up with the principal when I've calmed down, of course. But what the actual fuck? Some of comments. Commenter. Is it documented that you are unavailable for those 3 days, or is dad listed as the primary contact? Reply. Both. It was all written down explicitly when we were filling everything out. He's the primary, and I'm secondary with special instruction. Her grandmother is the emergency contact, and also wasn't called top commenter. Make sure it's well documented. They need to follow the communication orders you give them. They don't get to decide that the mother must answer. I'd threaten a lawsuit if they continue this behavior and make false CPS reports. Reply. It's all in writing and has been since we first started filling out the paperwork. If you mean the woman claiming she called CPS, unfortunately I only had that conversation over the phone call and not a text message. Commenter. CPS will provide you with a letter to document the investigation, and then another letter to confirm that it was founded, or if no evidence was found. You can call CPS and ask them to confirm if you're being investigated. If the school didn't exhaust all means of contact, CPS is way too overburdened to send someone to investigate this. Sounds like bullshit to scare you. Reply. I'm almost positive it is. There's no way an actual CPS person wouldn't have at least spoken to my husband when he showed up, whether they really believed this was abandonment or not. Commenter. I'm willing to bet it was a school counselor or social worker. If they did complain, CPS has 72 hours to follow up. If substantiated. Reply. That would make more sense. They definitely work there and aren't a direct teacher, and the counselors are split up based on student last names. So we met hers, but I know there's at least 5. To an idiot commenter saying OP should have had her phone regardless of the rules. I'm including one comment from OP because I liked it. Reply. No, it is not allowed on my person, period. Nothing with a battery is that isn't distributed by the company itself, and our assigned pagers do not allow outside calls. You can look at your phone on your breaks. LOL, what do you think people did before cell phones? Do you think kids were just keeling over in the nurse's office because the home phone wasn't picked up and the office was too stupid to try anything else? Later in the comment thread to, no job is too important not to let you have your phone for your kid. When the battery and the phone signal could disrupt the equipment or cause excess static and cost tens of thousands of dollars in damages, it is, especially when that person has other family members who should be called first. Update post. To answer the most common questions. The school had documentation to call my husband or his mother ever since we enrolled there. I double-checked our computer portal with the school website, and it's still listed that way, including that I can't be contacted for anything that might be time-sensitive. I cannot have my phone on my person while I'm working, period. My workplace has an automatic answering machine for public calls, so even if the school did call them, I wouldn't get the message for probably another half hour at absolute best. Even then, I work about 30-40 minutes away if traffic is good. Yes, I am in a more traditional area, although it's never been too huge of a deal before besides having to commute to the city for work. This is not going to be the super dramatic update I'm sure a lot of people were hoping for, sorry. First off, I did not jump straight to getting an attorney to threaten them. I did call and ask a local family law firm, and the person I spoke to told me if we did have to go as far as suing it would look better, to try to exhaust options on my own before threatening legal action. But they would be happy to look over any communications between us, and we could CC them on any emails and ask me to get any information on the potential neglect abandonment case I could while they looked into it as well. I started by sending a follow-up email to the principal, and CC'd the superintendent and law person on it asking for confirmation that they had checked our file for who to call. More details on who exactly was spoken to at CPS, any case numbers, and the name of the person who was sitting alone with my sick daughter and did not speak to my husband or identify themselves. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, the principal was out of town for several days with some family emergency. After a day with no reply, the superintendent emailed me directly asking for more details, and I sent them an email outlining exactly what had happened from our perspective. Screenshots from my phone, my husband's phone, and his mother's phone showing the phone calls and the lack of them. Monday the principal finally got back to us, and we got some answers. The woman sitting with our daughter was one of the school counselors. Just not the one assigned to her. No one actually contacted CPS. There is no case open against us. That was just a straight-up lie. The woman who told me she had actually called the school's social worker, not CPS, who then sent the counselor to sit with her, instead of, telling her that was ridiculous or going himself. The counselor claims she was under the impression that she was just keeping our daughter company until the parents arrived, since there was no nurse that day. But if that was the case, she should have at least said hello, right? And I'm not sure if he was supposed to tell me this, but apparently this is not the first time they've had issues with how she responds to fathers or male caregivers in general. Which I want to know. If that's the case, why didn't anyone do anything about it before? What the fuck? As of now, she's been suspended pending investigation. Obviously, these aren't all of the details, but this is the gist of it. I'm sure a lot of people were hoping to hear I'd sued the school for defamation, harassment, threatening, whatever else, and gotten that stupid woman fired for being a misogynistic bitch. But this is what we've got, lol. Sum of comments. Commenter. It sounds like the woman's behavior will be doing all the work of getting her reprimanded and/or fired. Reply, hopefully fired. Commenter. Downvoted but included for OOP's answer. I'm confused because in your first story, you said that the woman sitting with your daughter took off, but that it was the front desk person who lectured your husband about you abandoning your child. It sounds to me like both women need to have a level of discipline around the fact that fathers can be first-line caregivers. Reply, no. I said the woman sitting with her was one we didn't recognize, who was not her teacher or administration but who we'd seen at orientation. Not that she was the one who called us. Commenter. If she has a problem with male caregivers, why not just call mother-in-law? Reply. My only guess is she has a gender-neutral, somewhat masculine name and is listed as grandparent in the checkbox. So maybe they assumed she was a man. Commenter. Who got suspended? The counselor lady or the lady at the desk? Reply desk, sorry. Although I kind of feel the counselors should have gotten some of that too for going along with this bullshit. But I'm not privy to every single detail of disciplinary action stories number 17. My boyfriend flipped out that my 12-year-old lets me see him in the bath. My 12-year-old son hasn't hit puberty yet and is still very childlike. I always give him privacy when he asks for it. He gets dressed in his room and neither me or his older sister go around with no scant clothes on. However, sometimes when he's in the bath, he will call me into the bathroom to talk about something. The other day, my boyfriend saw me go in to talk to him and really flipped out on me, saying it was nasty, weird, inappropriate, and basically treated me like I was doing something dirty and horrible. My argument has been that if my son's comfortable with me seeing him in the bath at this point in his development, then it isn't an issue. And of course, I would never go into the bathroom uninvited if he was in there. My daughter was about 11 when she stopped wanting me to come into the bathroom with her, and I respected that immediately. I have also once had a discreet wee in front of my son when I was absolutely bursting, and he wouldn't get out of the bath. On this occasion, he had already asked me to come into the bathroom to talk to him. Nothing was showing, and he turned to face the wall. Obviously, I didn't do it for the fun of it. I thought my bladder was going to explode. My boyfriend says these are not healthy boundaries, and I need to teach my son it's wrong. Even if he doesn't feel uncomfortable and I'm setting unhealthy habits for later life. I'm autistic, so sometimes I do struggle with boundaries. But on this occasion I can understand why my boyfriend has a different opinion, but I don't think I did anything that horrible. Who is overreacting here? Have I been inappropriate without realizing? Throwaway account because I don't want this to be on my main. I feel quite embarrassed, horrified, and confused that I have to ask this on Reddit. Comments. Commenter 1. As a Nordic, this is a bit hard for me to grasp. Nye. There was a phase, which is fine, when I was like 16 and didn't want to use the sauna at the same time with my dad, but after I got older it was okay again. We're just different about these things, I guess. But at 12 I still had my dad come scrub my back, and now at over 40 I go to common sauna with strangers sometimes. Reply. This is interesting, thanks for sharing. Do you guys use the sauna naked? Or are you partly clothed? I do think British society has a lot of repressed shame around nudity. Commenter 2. I'm near 40 and my mom saw me full frontal wang just yesterday. When she was helping me change the bandage on my butt after I had surgery. Point is, you're his mom, who cares? As long as it's appropriate in context and he isn't objecting, this is a nothing issue. Provide your BF a glass of water and one chill pill. He is overreacting. Commenter 3. I'm a mum of a boy similar age. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. You're his mum and he's a child. You respect his boundaries. It will be obvious when he's suddenly conscious and doesn't want you around while he's in the bath. My kid's is almost 13, and it now closing the door when getting dressed, etc. All good. There's definitely something wrong with the way your boy reacted and treated you over it. I'd be seriously considering if he's the right person to have in your family. Sorry. Hope you are okay. Commenter 4. Yikes. Nudity is not automatically sexual, especially with your son. It's a huge red flag that your boyfriend can't make that separation. Y'all, I'm exhausted. Getting more than 100 likes always brings out the weirdest freaking reply, guys. And hitting 1K brings out even more. And I'm not going to spend my afternoon reading and replying to them. Notifications are going off. Stories. Number 18. Entitled guest threatened my career over pasta at a charity event. I'm a 32F chef. I work in a restaurant but also get hired for big events. Weddings, galas, fundraisers. These jobs aren't like restaurant service. Everything is decided weeks before. The menu, portions, prep. We don't just freestyle dishes for whoever asks, because it throws off service and breaks contract. Anyway, I was running plating at a charity gala last 2 weeks ago when this woman, maybe mid-40s, dripping in designer clothes, waves me over and demands truffle pasta. It wasn't on the menu. I told her politely the menu was set, and I couldn't make her something different. She didn't hesitate to get angry immediately. Told me a real chef makes what the guest wants, then added, "You're just the help with a fancy knife set. Don't act like you're above me." That one hurt more than I expected. I've been in kitchens over a decade. I've worked insane hours, burned myself, lost sleep, dealt with constant stress, and she boiled all of that down to just the help. But I bit my tongue and kept working. She didn't stop, though. She kept coming back to me during service, complaining louder each time. At one point, she cornered me, telling me I'd ruined the vibe and that she'd make sure I never worked another gala again. People actually overheard because she was raising her voice. I felt so small, like I wanted to disappear. It got heated enough that my sous chef had to step in. Thankfully, the event coordinator had my back. They told her straight up I was doing my job as contracted, and she was out of line. Still, word got back to me later that she's been talking trash about me to people in that same social circle, calling me uncooperative and difficult. In our business, reputation is everything. So even though I know I did nothing wrong, it's terrifying that one entitled person can do real damage and know what's wild. This was a charity gala. She was there to support a cause but lost her mind over not getting custom pasta. Comments. Commenter 1. People who know her, know what she is like, plus they have been to events and understand how the menu works. This will not damage your reputation. Reply. Thank you. That's actually really reassuring to hear. I think I just panicked in the moment because it felt like she was shouting my career down in front of everyone. You're right, though. Anyone who actually works with events knows how locked in the menus are. Hopefully her words won't carry much weight. Commenter 2. Don't let it bother you. She more than likely acts like this all of the time. People who know her won't pay any attention to her complaints about you. Reply. Yeah, you're probably right. It just really shook me in the moment because I've worked so hard to build my reputation, and it felt like she was trying to tear it down in seconds. I'm trying to remind myself that people who actually know me and know this industry won't take her seriously. Commenter 3. I work for a charity. That kind of people appears from time to time, and they do bad mouth. The thing is, the rest of us are not blind. We know that when that kind of people say something bad, it's probably their own fault. Reply. Thank you for saying that honestly. It helps a lot to hear it from someone who also works in the charity world. In the moment it felt like her words could crush me, but you're right. People usually see through that kind of behavior. It's comforting to know others notice when the problem is really them. Commenter 4. It's just pasta. Ain't a Michelin star resto or something, I'ma tell ya. Some people got way too big for their britches. Reply. Right? That's what blows my mind. It was pasta, not life or death. Not even a Michelin tasting menu. Just a set gala dinner. I'll never understand how people can act like the world revolves around their cravings. Stories. Number 19. Aita for refusing to swap my piano lesson time with another girl. So I, 18M, have been going to a music school for 11 years now. For 6 years ever since I switched schools and had to start commuting there, I've had the piano lesson PL for this post at the same time. Wednesday 19th Saturday to 1945. And before that I've had ensemble class EC. I had a different teacher for EC before. But for the last 2 years the old one retired. I go to the EC of the same teacher I have for PL. It is important to note that both of those ECs were at the same time, 1815 to 19 tour. At the EC there is this one girl 17F, let's call her Emma. She also happens to be my classmate, so we have the same timetable at school. Our teacher is in my town only on Tuesday and Wednesday, and Emma had her PL on Tuesday, right after school if she took the bus. This year, she suddenly needs to have the PL after EC. I live in the same town where the music school is, but I live at the other end, so if I take some shortcuts through fields and forests I can get there in 20 minutes. Those shortcuts are unusable in winter though, so it usually takes around 30 minutes. Emma lives in neighboring town, and it takes her around an hour to go on foot. But her mother always picks her up, so it takes her like 4 minutes by car this year. Her brother has some kind of sports class in some other town, so after the EC ends, she has to wait for 20 minutes for her mother to pick her brother up and then her. For some reason both Emma and her mother can't deal with this. She's a stay-at-home mom and has no problem picking her up both of those days, so she gets to the music school and back in 10 minutes. For me, it takes an hour. Long story short, I refused to switch with her for my own comfort. We agreed with our music teacher that I'll have the PL at the same time like always last year, and I am not willing to switch with her. When her mother found out, she started freaking out and went straight to our teacher. They are friends, so suddenly there are 3 people pushing me to switch, even though it makes 0 sense to me. I told her I'd rather quit, but the teacher needs me there because I'm basically carrying the EC. So tell me, am I the asshole? Comments, commenter 1 NTA, and don't give in. Make it abundantly clear to your teacher that you will quit EC if you are coerced into switching. Whether you actually would is another issue, but it's leverage. People use leverage tactics when negotiating, so you might as well start practicing now. Don't let them guilt trip you. Either commenter 2 NTA for one thing, it's your time. For another, switching would inconvenience you more than sticking would inconvenience the other person. Commenter 3. NTA. Your boundary is maintaining your current slot or quitting. Don't give in. They are trying to guilt you because they think they can. You are doing nothing wrong. They are more flexible but don't want to be. Heaven forbid she sits quietly on her phone for 20 minutes while waiting on mom to pick her up. Give me a break. If you have another option for PLs in your town, I'd suggest at least looking into whether you think that could work. Maybe better for you to just cut bait now, with her mom and the teacher being friends. I have a sense that they may end up screwing you either way. My advice is always to act first. Commenter 4 NTA. You need to look out for yourself, just like her mom is looking out for herself. You had this time. It works best for you. You actually are more important to the class than her nope. You are just being a normal, functioning member of society. Her mom is being an asshat though. Stories number 20. Should I tell my friend what her husband asked me? I apologize if the title is a little misleading. It's not as bad as it makes it seem, but still pretty terrible. So, my friend has an unreliable partner, who is now her husband. They've had problems regarding his insensitivity and unreliability. Basically, her husband doesn't want to do anything that inconveniences his comfort and fun. So if it means thinking about other people, namely her, and having to do something instead of, say, playing with his band or watching TV, he doesn't want to do it. Well, my friend is having surgery on Friday. A pretty serious surgery that will incapacitate her for about 8 weeks. I told her I would be there on the day of and hang out until she was out of surgery. It's going to be a long day, but I promised her I'd be there. Her husband is going to be taking her in and all that. Her and I had a discussion over the weekend about his ability to step up to the plate and take care of her while she is recovering. She will need help with walking and managing her meds, so she can stay ahead of the pain. I told her I did not trust him at all to be there for her, and that I will be texting him often to make sure he is doing his job. She was all, no, he's going to step up to the plate, I trust him. At first she didn't, and had planned to make meals for herself so he could heat them up for her and clean the house for him. Then yesterday she told me she wasn't going to do any of that, and she's going to trust he will take care of her. He just asked me if I would take care of her the day after surgery so he could go hang out with friends. The day after, the first day recovering, and he's already ready to bounce. I thought about it, fuming, and concluded that no, I would not do that for him. A, he promised her he would take care of her, and B, I don't want to set a precedent that he will just call on me when he wants to ditch her, cause I can see that happening very easily. And C, If he told her now what he was planning, it would have caused a fight between them 2 days before her surgery, and she's already anxious about that. I didn't want to add to it. If this was week 2 and he needed a break, I totally get it and would be over there, but this is day 1 now. The question is, do I tell her about this? Not now, obviously, but when she is well enough to receive it? Update. Turns out I didn't have to tell her. He told on himself. I just got a message from her about it. Let's see how this goes. Keep y'all updated. Another update. Well, he told her that he asked me to, as he put it, babysit her. She is upset, but mostly I think she is just tired and disappointed in him. I asked her if he told her to test the waters and see if he could just leave while she was sleeping. She said yes because he said, "You'll just be sleeping, right?" I asked her what she said to him, and she said nothing. And finally he worked it out himself, that since it was her first day home he should stay with her. I told her when she's better she has decisions to make. She said in his mind he thinks if he can get someone to babysit her and do the fun thing, then in his mind it's a win-win. I told her he's a selfish prick. Comments. Commenter 1. You most likely won't have to tell her. She'll figure out just how unreliable he is within a week after the surgery, and if he's able to keep it going, then good for him. Maybe it's for the better. Commenter 2. Yes. Tell her neutrally, as if it's not an issue. This is how I'd play it. Hey, your husband let me know he was looking for help on day 2, and I'm sorry I'm not free, but if you are really desperate, you can call me after. You can do her a favor. After he's failed, he gets no favors. Consider being free that day when she calls. Because you know he's almost certainly going to bail on her anyway. Maybe over meal prep a bit, so you can leave a few things in her freezer, but only after he's failed to feed her. Let him fail first, then help her. Never, ever cover for him in advance. Be luckily able to help when he doesn't perform. She has to feel his failure first, unfortunately. Nothing but that anxiety and suffering is going to teach her. Reply, good idea. Letting him fail first. And he will. I am seriously wondering if he will find a way to leave her on Saturday. And his friend knows his wife is having surgery? Why would you ask if he could come out knowing that? What the hell? Commenter 3. If he fails, nag and shame him. Contact him e.g. Your wife needs X. And says you haven't been home since X time. When will you be home? If he doesn't reply within a reasonable time, contact his friends with a, if you see H, tell him same as above, and or post on his social media. If he then contacts you and or goes home and you know he was hanging out with friends or at a bar, etc., message everyone again saying, H is on his way home now from gaming at A's house. Thanks everyone. Screenshot any choice messages he sends you, and if he calls you, record the call if not illegal. Repeat as needed. Commenter 4. Sure. If it's something your friend keeps bringing up and you can feel in your body that it's starting to make you feel stressed, anxious, fearful, etc., that's when you know it's time to bring it up. Let that hangout with her pass and figure out your feelings. Ask her to coffee or something low-key and start with I statements and emotion-forward language. I just wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind. We're friends and I feel like our relationship can weather anything, so I feel comfortable bringing this up to you. I know that you love Guy's name, and I am here to support you. But hearing about how he treats you leaves me with an upset stomach, a pain in my chest, fight or flight response, however you're feeling. I care so much about you and it makes me feel insert emotion here and insert emotion here to hear about anybody treating you like that. I want to be there for you, but I also can't emotionally handle hearing about how he doesn't do chores, screams at you, doesn't have a job, hours you, whatever it is that's triggering you. I'm more than happy to talk about anything else, but that specific thing is a trigger for me. And I've been leaving our hangouts feeling worried, scared, sick to my stomach, concerned. I love you, and I'm here to support you through thick and thin, but that's one thing I can't handle no matter how much I've tried. I always try and reassure my friends that I care about them. We have a strong relationship, etc., and I try to make it about me and my feelings. I also try and make sure that I'm not making them feel like too much by letting them know it's just one thing, even if it's technically more than one thing packaged as one that I can't carry but I'm still willing to carry a lot. It's also important to be specific about what you aren't comfortable talking about. If you're too vague, e.g., I can't handle hearing about your relationship, she'll be unsure of what she can talk about with you. She went out to dinner with her boyfriend. Can she bring that up? What about his birthday that's coming up? Those are just some examples, but that's why it's important to say, I can't handle hearing about how he hits you. After that hangout, expect your friend to pull away a little bit while they process what you said. You'll most likely have to be the first one to reach out with a meme or a girls' night invite. Things might be awkward for a bit, but it'll smooth out, and your relationship will be stronger afterwards. Relationships are built on vulnerability, and coming to someone with that amount of emotional candor is extremely vulnerable. Stories number 21. Overheard at the beach. This happened a few weeks back, and I still think about it because it was such a small, funny, human moment that just kind of stuck with me. My wife Hannah and I had decided to spend the day at Wrightsville Beach. We don't get out there as often as we'd like, and we always forget how much work it is to haul everything from the parking lot to the sand. Still, we managed umbrella, folding chairs, little cooler, and a stack of books. By the time we finally staked our umbrella into the sand, smoothed out our towels, and collapsed into the chairs, I already felt like I needed a nap. It was one of those perfect early summer days. The sky was the kind of blue that doesn't look real, with big, slow clouds drifting across. The air smelled like sunscreen, salt water, and grilled hot dogs from somebody's setup a few yards down. Kids were shrieking as they ran in and out of the surf. Teenagers were tossing a frisbee badly, and somebody nearby was playing oldies on a Bluetooth speaker. It was loud, but in that pleasant background buzz way. We'd just settled in when this family caught my eye. First came a woman, probably late 20s or early 30s, pulling one of those beach wagons that looked absolutely overloaded. Towels piled high, a cooler strapped on top, a bag of sand toys threatening to fall out with every bump. She looked like she was done for the day, sun hat tilted, walking with that I'm tired but pushing through energy. A few steps behind her was a guy about the same age, arms completely full. He had folding chairs stacked awkwardly under one arm, a big beach bag hanging from the other, and a folded umbrella tucked under his chin for balance. He was trudging in the same direction, toward the parking lot. You could just feel the exhaustion coming off him in waves, and trailing behind him was this little girl, maybe 6 or 7. She was tiny, her arms full of beach toys, a bucket, a plastic shovel, and some half-deflated floaties. Her hair was still wet from the ocean and plastered against her cheeks. She was taking big, dramatic steps through the sand like each one was a major effort. Right as she passed by our umbrella, she groaned, "Daddy, I hate the beach." The guy, without missing a beat, just groaned right back, "Me too, baby." "Me too." Then he paused, glanced toward the woman pulling the wagon, and added, "Your mommy's the only mother for—" He caught himself, looked over at Hannah and me, grinned sheepishly, and finished with, "Your mommy's the only one who likes the beach." We all kind of laughed. The little girl just kept trudging forward with this look of pure misery, like she'd been dragged through some personal version of hell that involved sand in her shoes and sticky sunscreen. The dad gave us a shrug that said everything without saying a word. What can you do? It wasn't a big, dramatic thing, just this tiny overheard exchange. But it stuck with me because it was so relatable. I mean, how many family outings end up like that? One person's dream day in the sun is another person's endless chore. The dad clearly loved his wife and daughter, but he was done. The daughter had reached her limit about an hour before, and the mom, God bless her, probably just wanted one nice beach day with her family and wasn't about to apologize for it. After they passed, Hannah nudged me and said, "That's going to be us someday." You griping? Me insisting we stay for just one more hour. And honestly, she's right. I already saw myself in that guy's defeated but good-natured shrug. It made me laugh then, and it makes me laugh now. Because sometimes the most memorable moments aren't your own. They're just the ones you happen to overhear on a beach while everyone's dragging themselves back to the car. Update, didn't expect to be writing about this again, but the universe had other plans. Remember that family I wrote about at the beach? The mom with the wagon, the exhausted dad, and the little girl who announced to the world that she hated the beach? Well, I saw them again, fast forward a few weeks. Hannah and I decided to check out a different spot. A little bay area where the water is calmer and the crowd is smaller. It's where families tend to go because it's easier for kids to play without getting knocked down by waves. We rolled in with our cooler, chairs and umbrella, and as soon as we set up, Hannah whispered, "Oh my God, look who it is." Sure enough, about 30 yards down the beach. There they were, same family. The mom later, I overheard someone call her Jasmine, was once again pulling a wagon like it was a second job. The dad whose name I caught this time, Marcus, was setting up chairs while trying to keep an umbrella from blowing away. And the little girl turned out her name's Layla was standing with her hands on her hips, glaring at the sand like it had personally wronged her. This time, though, instead of declaring her hatred, she shouted, "I don't want to get sandy again." Marcus just called back, "Baby, we're literally on sand." Hannah and I lost it. It was the same energy as before, just with new material. What killed me was how familiar it all felt. Every few minutes, Jasmine would call out something like, "Marcus, can you grab the sunscreen?" Or, "Marcus, the cooler's still in the car." He'd jog off like a man resigned to his fate. Layla kept trying to build a sandcastle only to stomp her foot and cry out, "It's not working." Honestly, she sounded like a tiny middle-aged woman who'd just been inconvenienced at a hotel check-in. At one point, Layla wandered over near us because she was chasing her bucket that had rolled. Hannah offered to help scoop some water for her, and that opened the floodgates. Layla plopped down in the sand right next to Hannah and started a whole conversation. She told us in great detail that she actually likes pools. But the ocean is too salty, too big, and too sandy, she said. Her mommy loves the beach because she thinks it's peaceful. But Layla announced very dramatically, "It's not peaceful, it's hot." Marcus eventually came over to retrieve her and apologized with the same tired grin as before. He said, "I swear, she's gonna write a Yelp review of every beach in North Carolina by the time she's 8. We chatted for a few minutes. And that's how we properly got their names. Jasmine waved from her towel and Layla shouted, "We're gonna have snacks soon," like she was inviting us to some exclusive party. Hannah and I spent most of that day just quietly enjoying our own setup, but every so often we'd glance over at them, and it was weirdly comforting. The bickering, the complaining, the resigned teamwork. It was messy, but it was also kind of beautiful. They clearly loved each other, even if they didn't all love the beach. By the end of the afternoon, Marcus looked like he'd run a marathon. Jasmine was stretched out with a book, totally unbothered, and Layla had finally managed a lopsided sandcastle, which she proudly stomped flat before declaring, "Okay, we can go home now." Watching them pack up again, I nudged Hannah and said, "That's us in 5 years." She smirked and said, "Better start working on your shrug." So yeah, didn't think I'd ever see them again. But life's funny that way. Same family, same dynamic. Different beach, still made my whole day. Final update. I never thought a random overheard moment at the beach would become a little recurring chapter in my life. But here we are. And this last part is the most unexpected twist of all. It had been a few months since that second beach encounter with the family. Jasmine with her wagon, Marcus with his eternal patience, and little Layla with her dramatic beach critiques. I'd honestly assumed that was the end of it. But life, it turns out, had one more surprise in store a few weeks ago. Hannah and I went to an open house. We're starting to think about moving, and there was a place not too far from where we live now. Quiet street, decent backyard, the kind of place we could actually imagine building a life in. We were wandering through the kitchen when we heard a familiar voice behind us say, "I swear, if there's sand in this car one more time, I'm banning the beach forever." I turned around, and there was Marcus. Same easy smile, same exasperated tone, holding a sippy cup in one hand and house pamphlets in the other. We all stared at each other for a second, then burst out laughing. "No way," he said. "It's the beach people." As it turns out, they were house hunting too, in the same neighborhood. We ended up chatting for a long time in that kitchen, and it felt like talking to old friends, even though technically we were strangers who'd never had a full conversation before. Jasmine joined us a few minutes later, looking a little embarrassed when Marcus told her we were the couple who'd witnessed the infamous "I hate the beach" declaration. She laughed and said, "Oh God, she still brings that up." Layla was there too, a little taller and just as expressive. She was wearing a shirt with a cartoon crab on it and dramatically told us she still doesn't like sand but likes seashells now. Growth? I guess the conversation just flowed from there. We ended up standing in the driveway for almost an hour after the showing, talking about neighborhoods, favorite local coffee shops, kid-friendly parks. They told us they were moving because they wanted to be closer to Jasmine's mom and better schools. We told them about our plans for maybe starting a family one day and needing a bit more space. It was one of those strange but wonderful full-circle moments. We had started as complete strangers sharing a small, funny interaction from a distance, and now here we were, talking about mortgage rates and favorite takeout spots. We swapped numbers before we left a few days later. Jasmine texted Hannah about a block party in the neighborhood they were hoping to move into. We decided to go, and sure enough, they were there. this time not exhausted from sun and sand, but relaxed, chatting with neighbors and laughing while Layla ran around with a group of other kids. At one point, Marcus raised his cup toward me and said, "Still hate the beach." I raised mine back and said, "Still relatable." It's funny how small, passing moments can lead to unexpected connections. A throwaway comment on a hot afternoon turned into a shared story, then a second meeting, and now maybe a real friendship. And every time I think about that first day, that tiny girl trudging through the sand declaring her hatred for the beach, that dad trying not to swear in front of strangers, I realize that sometimes the most ordinary scenes can stick with you the longest. Now, when Hannah and I talk about moving, we joke that we're not just picking a house, we're moving near the beach family, and honestly, that makes the whole idea feel even better. It's a reminder I'll carry with me. People cross paths for the smallest reasons, and sometimes those little moments become part of your story without you even realizing it. Stories number 22. A little boy comes home from school and his mom asks how his walk was. So this actually happened years ago when I was still living in Ohio, and it got retold at family gatherings so many times, it's practically become folklore. I swear, if you ever doubt that kids repeat everything they see, let this be your cautionary tale. Picture a quiet Tuesday afternoon, school had just let out, and the Johnsons' youngest, Daniel, who was maybe 7 at the time, came trudging home with his backpack half open, shoelaces untied, and that glazed-over look kids get after a long day of math worksheets and playground drama. His mom, Linda, was in the kitchen making grilled cheese when he came in. She asked as casually as ever, "How was your walk home from school, Danny?" Now, normally you'd expect the usual answers. "It was fine," or "I saw a squirrel," or maybe some story about who won kickball. But not this time. This time, Daniel, completely serious, goes, "Well, on the way home from school I saw Dad." Linda froze, spatula in hand. "You saw Dad?" "Yeah," Daniel continued, plopping his backpack onto the floor. "He was in a car with Aunt Susie, and he unbuttoned her shirt, and then he took her bra off, and then—" Linda slammed the spatula down. "Daniel?" But before she could get the rest of the details, she stopped herself, took a deep breath, and said, "You know what, sweetie? Let's save the rest of the story for when Dad gets home for dinner." So, hours pass. Dinner gets made. The table is set. The air is thick with tension. Dad, that's Mark, finally comes home from work, still in his button-down shirt, carrying the smell of motor oil because he worked at a parts supplier. He's in his usual, "long day, what's for dinner?" mode. He kisses Linda on the cheek, ruffles Daniel's hair, sits down like nothing's wrong. Linda, with the fakest sweet smile you've ever seen, looks at her son and says, "Daniel, why don't you tell your father about your walk home from school again?" Mark looks confused, kind of half smiling like, "What's going on?" And Daniel, bless his heart, launches into it again like he's reading a police report. "Well, on the way home from school, I saw Dad. He was in a car with Aunt Susie, and he unbuttoned her shirt, and then he took her bra off." Linda interrupts sharply. "And then what happened?" The room is dead silent except for the clink of Daniel's fork against his plate. Mark's face drains of color. He's frozen, eyes darting between his wife and son. Susie, by the way, isn't really Daniel's aunt. She's just Linda's best friend, and Aunt Susie was the honorary title. That only made it worse, and Daniel, completely innocent, completely oblivious, finishes the story with, "And then Dad and Aunt Susie started doing the same thing that you and Uncle Roy did when Dad was away in the army." You could have heard a pin drop. Mark nearly choked on his food. Linda dropped her glass. And little Daniel? He just went back to eating his grilled cheese like he'd just delivered a casual weather report. Apparently, that was the night when everything in that family came crashing into the open. Because the real punchline wasn't just Daniel's words. It was the way both parents realized in the same exact second that they had each been caught. By accident, through the mouth of a 7-year-old, that dinner table turned into a courtroom. Linda exploded. Mark exploded. Names were called. Accusations flew. Daniel sat there looking confused, asking if he could have more ketchup. The whole thing spiraled from there. By the end of the week, Susie wasn't coming around anymore. Uncle Roy wasn't either. The neighborhood got real quiet about it. But you know how it is in small towns. Everybody knew. People whispered about it at church, at the grocery store, at PTA meetings. And poor Daniel? He grew up to be one of those guys who never says much at family gatherings. Probably because the most honest thing he ever said blew his whole household apart before he hit middle school. To this day, if you mention that story to Linda or Mark, They'll both glare at you like you've just dragged a corpse out of the closet. But if you ask Daniel, he'll just shrug and say, "I was just telling the truth. Kids don't lie, man. They just don't." And sometimes the truth comes out in ways you can't ever take back. So I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. But I guess enough of you are invested in what happened after the grilled cheese dinner incident. So here's the update. It's been over a decade since that night. But the ripple effect basically rewrote the entire Johnson family tree. Remember how I said the room went silent after Daniel dropped that "same thing you and Uncle Roy did" line? That silence turned into yelling. And the yelling turned into everyone's dirty laundry being dragged out at once. It wasn't just an affair. It was affairs, plural turns out. Mark really had been sneaking around with Susie for months. He thought he was being slick by meeting her in random parking lots on his lunch breaks. But the town isn't that big and people talk. Meanwhile, Linda had her own thing going with her brother-in-law, Roy, and yeah, Roy was married to Mark's sister at the time. Thanksgiving was already awkward before all this. But after, forget it. The fallout was nuclear. Mark moved out within a week. Susie skipped town a month later when the gossip got too heavy, and Roy's wife filed for divorce the same year. Linda stayed in the house with Daniel and his older sister Megan. But everyone pretended like none of it ever happened in front of the kids. At least that was the plan. But kids remember. Daniel definitely remembered. Fast forward to when Daniel hit high school. Every time his mom tried to lecture him about being responsible, he'd shoot back with, "Like you and Uncle Roy?" He weaponized that memory like only a teenager can. Megan, who was older, just got real quiet about the whole thing and avoided family gatherings entirely. By the time she graduated, she bolted out of Ohio and never looked back. The family split into camps. Some relatives sided with Mark, claiming Linda was worse for stepping out with family. Others blamed Mark for starting it with Susie in the first place. Christmases stopped being one big event and turned into separate gatherings where everyone pretended to be happy. But here's where it gets kind of darkly funny. About 2 years ago, Daniel, now in his 20s, told the story at a party, word for word. The way he told it at the dinner table as a kid, people were howling with laughter. The whole thing went semi-viral on his buddy's Snapchat, and it eventually made its way back to Mark and Linda. Mark called Daniel and said, "You've ruined my reputation." Linda called and said, "You need to stop dredging this up." And Daniel just told them both, "I didn't ruin anything." "You did, I just told the truth." So yeah, the story that blew their marriage apart is now the story Daniel tells at bars when someone asks him about the craziest thing that ever happened in his childhood. He laughs about it now, but it's got this edge of bitterness, like he knows that one moment changed everything. Meanwhile, Susie lives down in Florida now, remarried to some guy she met online. Roy ended up in Indiana, still divorced, still kind of the family black sheep Linda and Mark never reconciled. They each remarried other people eventually, but they don't speak unless it's about Megan or Daniel. And to this day, if you bring up grilled cheese in front of Linda, she gets this look like she wants to stab someone with a butter knife. All right. Last update on the infamous walk home from school saga. It's been a couple more years, and I think I've finally gotten enough distance to see the whole thing for what it was. A train wreck that shaped every single part of who I am. Even if I spent years pretending it didn't. For a long time, I used that dinner table story as a party trick. I'd tell it half drunk, people would howl, and I'd act like it was no big deal. But the truth is, it was a big deal. It was the moment my childhood ended. I didn't realize it at 7 years old, but repeating what I saw cracked my parents' marriage open like glass. And everyone got cut. Therapy helped me piece a lot of this together. I used to think I just didn't trust women or didn't trust men because of my mom and dad. But really, I didn't trust permanence. I went into every relationship assuming someone was eventually going to walk out or betray me, and I sabotaged good things before they had a chance to go bad. My therapist finally said, "You're still that little boy, waiting for your parents to implode again." That hit me like a ton of bricks. I won't lie, I've made mistakes because of it. I've ghosted people, I've overreacted to little things, and I've had to swallow the fact that I inherited some of my dad's impulsiveness and some of my mom's defensiveness. But I've also learned that none of that defines me unless I let it. As for the family, it's messy but calmer now. My mom, Linda, remarried a quiet guy named Howard. He's not flashy, but he treats her with respect. And honestly, that's more than she had before. My dad, Mark, ended up with a woman named Teresa, and they've been stable for a few years now. They'll never be in the same room again. But at least the screaming stopped. Megan, my sister, lives out west, married with a kid, and barely talks to either parent. She's polite at Christmas calls, but she built her own life and doesn't look back. I respect that. As for me, I'm still in Ohio, working, dating, figuring it out. I don't tell that dinner story anymore, not because it's not funny, but because I finally realized it wasn't just my story. It was everyone's worst moment, and I've been carrying it like a weapon. I don't want to be that guy anymore. Do I forgive them? That's complicated. I don't think you ever forget the night you saw your family unravel over grilled cheese and infidelity. But I do think you can reach a place where it doesn't own you anymore. I'm finally there. Funny enough, the other night I was at a friend's place and his little girl yelled, "Daddy, I hate broccoli." He yelled back, "Me too, kiddo." And it made me laugh so hard I had to step outside, because for a split second, it was like being back at that beach, or back at that dinner table, or back in that car watching things I never should have seen. Except this time, it didn't break anything. It was just funny, so yeah, that's the end of it. The kid who accidentally exposed 2 affairs at once grew up, messed up, and is still learning how to be better. And maybe that's enough. Stories number 23. Customer tried to touch my bundle of joy. I work in the cosmetics department of a mid-sized department store. You know the type. Endless rows of perfume bottles, skincare counters, and makeup displays that get rearranged every week just to keep customers wandering around. I'm 31, and I've been with this store for about 5 years. Retail is retail. You get good days, you get weird days, and sometimes you get days that feel like they were pulled from a bad sitcom. This story happened on one of those days. It was a Wednesday afternoon, so the store was relatively quiet. The morning rush had faded, and the evening crowd hadn't arrived yet. I was restocking the bargain perfume shelf, the one where all the discontinued scents and holiday gift sets end up, when a woman walked over. She looked to be early 50s, maybe 51 or 52. She had on this bright floral blouse, big sunglasses on her head, and the kind of confidence only certain types of customers carry. Like the store was built for them specifically. "Hi there, sweetie," she said. "I'm looking for something light but elegant. Maybe a little fruity." "Sure thing," I said, slipping into my customer service voice. "We've got some options here. Do you like citrus or more of a floral base?" She leaned in, sniffing a few of the sample cards I sprayed. She was polite, asking questions, and I was thinking this would be a nice, easy interaction. For a moment it was, and then, out of nowhere, her eyes dropped to my stomach. Now, I'll admit, I don't have a flat stomach. Never have, never will. I like food. I'm not a gym rat, and my body just sits the way it sits. I was wearing a flowy black blouse that day, the kind that kind of puffs out around the middle. Apparently, in her mind, flowy blouse plus not flat stomach swattered pregnancy. She gasped, hands over her mouth like she'd just discovered something magical. "Oh my God," she said, beaming. "You must be so excited. When is your little bundle of joy due?" I froze, perfume tester still in my hand. "Excuse me?" "Your baby," she said, nodding at my stomach like she was pointing out a hidden treasure. "When's the due date?" I blinked. "I'm not pregnant." She laughed like I was being modest. "Oh, come on, don't be shy, you're glowing. Is it a boy or a girl?" I repeated myself, a little firmer this time. "I'm not pregnant." She tilted her head, clearly not convinced. "Oh, honey, you don't have to hide it from me. I've been around enough pregnant women to know. Look at you." Before I could react, she did the unthinkable. She reached out with her hand, fingers spread, and actually tried to touch my stomach. I jumped back so fast I nearly knocked over the shelf behind me. "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" I yelped. "Don't touch me!" She blinked, startled. "Oh, I just wanted to feel a little kick." "What kick?" I snapped, clutching the edge of the shelf like it was a shield. "The only thing in here is the sandwich I had on my lunch break. And I don't think it kicks," she chuckled awkwardly, like she thought I was joking. "You don't have to get embarrassed. It's natural." At this point, I could feel my face burning. I hate confrontation, but something about a stranger trying to touch my body pushed me past politeness. "I said I'm not pregnant," I told her, louder now. A few customers nearby started glancing over. "Seriously, stop," but she doubled down, shaking her head. "Sweetheart, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I know what I see. You're pregnant." And right then, my stomach betrayed me loudly. It rumbled like a motorcycle engine starting up. This long growl that echoed in the quiet cosmetics section. The woman's face lit up. "See? That's a kick." "No, that is not a kick," I said, throwing my hands in the air. "That's digestion." And then, I swear the universe wanted to back me up. I let out the biggest fart I'd been holding in since lunch. It was loud. It was unapologetic. It echoed off the perfume shelves like a trumpet announcing my arrival. Half the people in the aisle gasped. One teenage boy burst out laughing so hard he had to duck behind a display. I didn't even hesitate. I pointed to my stomach like I was about to deliver a monologue on Broadway and shouted, "I physically cannot get pregnant. The only thing coming out of me later is a giant turd baby in the toilet." The cosmetics department went dead silent. For 2 full seconds, no one moved. And then, like a scene from a comedy movie, the woman's face turned bright crimson. She spun on her heel, mumbled something that sounded like, "Excuse me," and bolted out of the store so fast her sunglasses nearly fell off her head. I stood there, still clutching the shelf, while the teenage boy wheezed with laughter, and another woman muttered, "Good for you." My co-worker Jessica, who had just walked back from the skincare section, stared at me with her jaw open. "Did you just—" "Yes," I said flatly. "Yes, I did." She burst out laughing so hard she had to sit down on a stool behind the counter. "You just announced a turd baby's birth in the middle of Macy's." By the time my shift ended, the story had already spread through half the staff. The stockroom guy, Eric, high-fived me on my way out. My manager, Diane, just shook her head and said, "Please, for the love of God, don't put turd baby on a customer feedback card." I went home that night still red in the face. But by the next day, it was hilarious. Customers are nosy, pushy, sometimes downright invasive. But that woman learned the hard way that if you try to touch a stranger's belly, you might get more than you bargained for. And that is the day I went from a simple cosmetics clerk to the proud announcer of the arrival of turd baby. Weighing in at approximately 1 giant lunch burrito, morale of the story, keep your hands to yourself. Or you might find yourself running out of a store while the entire cosmetics department laughs about your imaginary bundle of joy. So I didn't think this silly turd baby moment would go any further, but of course the universe said, "Challenge accepted." 2 days after the incident, I was back at work in the cosmetics section, straightening displays and minding my own business, when my manager Diane came over. She had that look on her face, the one retail managers get when they've just dealt with a customer complaint that makes them question all their life choices. "Guess who called corporate?" she asked, pinching the bridge of her nose. I groaned. "No, don't tell me." "Oh yes," Diane said, "our very special perfume shopper, the one who tried to touch your bundle of joy." Apparently this woman, her name is Barbara, because of course it is, called our store and corporate headquarters to report that I verbally assaulted her in the cosmetics department. She claimed I embarrassed her, screamed obscenities, and bragged about bodily functions in front of impressionable teenagers. Diane sighed and said, "Corporate asked me to write up a report, so tell me exactly what you said." I repeated the whole thing. The accusations, the attempted belly touch, the stomach rumble, the fart, and finally my Broadway-worthy announcement about birthing a turd baby in the toilet. By the time I finished, Diane had her hand over her mouth, shoulders shaking. She wasn't crying, she was laughing. "I'm sorry," she wheezed. "That's the funniest damn thing I've ever heard. I can't even be mad. I just needed to hear it straight from you before I send in the report." To her credit, Diane had my back. She wrote it up as a customer crossing physical boundaries, and me responding with firm but humorous boundaries. She even threw in a line about how my response diffused a potentially escalating situation. Translation: farts save jobs. But Barbara wasn't done. Oh no, the very next weekend. She actually came back to the store. I spotted her in the mall hallway before she even walked in. The big floral blouse, the determined march of someone who thinks this time the manager will see my side. Sure enough, she stomped straight to the counter and demanded Diane. Unfortunately for her, Diane wasn't in that day. Instead, she got Jessica, my co-worker who laughs at everything and has zero tolerance for entitled customers. I heard the whole thing because, of course, cosmetics has terrible acoustics and everyone within a 20-foot radius could hear every word. Barbara. "That employee humiliated me." She accused me of touching her inappropriately and said the most vile, disgusting thing I've ever heard in public. Jessica. Deadpan. "You mean about the turd baby?" Barbara's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. "Yes." It was obscene. I was traumatized." Jessica, without missing a beat. "Ma'am, if you reached for my stomach, I would have said worse." Barbara sputtered like a tea kettle, then finally shouted, "This place has gone downhill." Before storming out again as soon as she left, one of our regulars, a sweet older guy named Tom who always buys cologne for his wife, leaned on the counter and said, "I don't know what's going on, but I'm never shopping anywhere else. You folks are hilarious." The next week, corporate actually followed up with Diane about Barbara's complaints. Diane told me later that she emailed them the full account with a polite note. Customer attempted unsolicited physical contact. Associate responded with humor to redirect the situation. Associate has full support of management, and that was that. Case closed since then. It's become a running joke among the staff. Anytime someone's stomach growls on shift, someone will whisper, "The turd baby's kicking." We even drew a little cartoon baby on a sticky note and taped it to the stockroom door. It has a speech bubble that says, "Push, mommy, push." I never thought one mortifying moment would turn into the best inside joke we've ever had at work. If Barbara ever comes back, I'm half tempted to throw her a fake baby shower with balloons and a cake that says, "Congratulations, it's a boy." But until then, I'll keep doing my job, selling perfume, and reminding everyone that you don't touch strangers' bodies. Unless you want the entire cosmetic staff to announce the birth of a digestive miracle in aisle 5. So this will be my last update on what my co-workers now officially call the Turd Baby Chronicles. Remember Barbara? The floral blouse belly poker who insisted I was pregnant and then ran screaming after my digestive Broadway performance? The same woman who called corporate and tried to spin the story as though I'd traumatized impressionable teenagers with obscene toilet humor? Yeah, she wasn't done. About 3 weeks after my second post, Barbara came back. This time she didn't come alone. She marched into the store, dragging a very tired-looking man behind her, who I can only assume was her husband. He looked like a guy who just wanted to watch football in peace, but instead got roped into his wife's crusade. Let's call him Frank. I was at the counter ringing up a customer when I heard the unmistakable sound of Barbara's voice cutting through the mall chatter. "There she is." "That's the one," Frank muttered. "Jesus, Barb," under his breath, but she ignored him. She stomped up to the counter and pointed a manicured finger at me like I'd stolen her pearls. "This is the employee who humiliated me," she announced to everyone within earshot. "She made vulgar jokes about bodily functions in public." The two customers I was helping froze, then very slowly turned to look at Barbara. One of them, a teenager with blue hair, whispered, "Oh my God, this is the turd baby lady." Barbara must have heard, because her face went redder than before. "This store needs to fire her," Barbara screeched. "She insulted me, she lied about me, and now she and her little friends are spreading rumors about me all over town." Frank tugged at her sleeve. "Barb, maybe let's just—" "No, Frank," she snapped. "This is about principle." At this point, my manager Diane came striding out from the back like a sheriff in an old western, calm, collected, and clearly done with Barbara's nonsense. "Barbara," she said firmly, "we've already addressed your complaint with corporate. They agreed with our handling of the situation." "This conversation is over," Barbara puffed up like a balloon about to pop. "Over? You think this is over? I was violated. She accused me of touching her, when all I did was offer a moment of kindness. And then she, Barbara's voice cracked, announced she was giving birth to feces." The whole cosmetics section went silent. Then the blue-haired teenager absolutely lost it, laughing so hard they dropped their shopping bag. Their friend joined in, and within seconds, 3 other customers were giggling too. Barbara spun around horrified. "It's not funny," she shrieked. Frank rubbed his face. "Barb, for God's sake, everyone's laughing, let's just go." "No, I won't leave until she's gone." Barbara yelled, "Fire her!" Diane folded her arms. "Barbara, if you don't leave right now, mall security will escort you out." And right on cue, here came Joe. One of the mall security guards who looks like he should have retired 10 years ago but secretly loves drama. He ambled over, hands on his belt. "Problem here?" he asked. Diane gestured toward Barbara. This customer was just leaving. Barbara gawked at her husband, then at me, then at Joe. Finally, realizing the audience was against her, she let out a strangled noise somewhere between a growl and a sob. "This place is disgusting," she wailed, and with that she stormed out of the store, dragging poor Frank behind her. He gave us an apologetic little wave before disappearing after her. We haven't seen her since. Diane later told us that Barbara called corporate again after that. But since she'd already filed 2 complaints and corporate had sided with us, she was basically flagged as a chronic complainer. Translation: her calls now get routed to voicemail purgatory. As for me, my co-workers will never let me live this down. Jessica made me a mock Employee of the Month certificate that says, Congratulations on delivering turd baby. Healthy and happy. In aisle 5, it's taped inside the stockroom where only staff can see. Eric from the stockroom started calling me Mom, and customers who follow local gossip have quietly asked me if I'm the turd baby person from TikTok. Yes, some teenager who overheard posted a version of the story online, and now half the mall knows me by reputation. Do I regret it? Honestly, not at all. I stood up for myself when someone crossed a line. I turned an awful situation into something my co-workers and I still laugh about weeks later. And maybe, just maybe, Barbara will think twice before she decides to grab another stranger's belly. So that's it. The saga is over. Barbara is banned in spirit if not officially. My job is safe. And my co-workers treat me like a local legend. And every time my stomach growls on shift, someone still whispers, "Shh, the turd baby's kicking?"